everything is working. We are going to be covering quite a bit today. Let's see. Have a lot of stuff that I want to get into. I figured going to have chill time and hopefully play some games, talk some politics. It has been a minute. It's probably going to be a much longer stream today. I'm thinking I'm going to go for, like, I'm aiming for, like, at least, let's do, like, 4 hours. I'm thinking 4 hours. I hope y'all are all doing well. Hi, Kyle. How are you? It is nice to see you. And it has been a minute since I have done a stream. Like, legitimately. I've been working. Life has been very busy. I've just had all sorts of stuff that I've been doing. But I think that in the year 2026, for those of you that have been following this channel for a while, if you like my content, then you should be pleased to know that this year I'm legitimately going to put effort into this channel. I want to do this like way more often than I've ever done it before. I want to start making constant content and just the state of the world is just such garbage right now that I feel like just doing videos every now and then and kind of using my channel as my own personal, like, you know, place for my thoughts and feelings on stuff is just something I want to put a lot more like effort and focus into, because I just feel the world is so terrible right now. We need as many voices as we can fighting against the fascism and garbage going on in this country right now. Yeah, I'm happy you're here too. And, you know, I mean, I'll do politics, which we'll get to in a little bit. And maybe I'm thinking the possibility of doing like debates and stuff will be something that I want to like be open to as well. Maybe I'll put a link to a new Discord that I have, which will be focused on kind of like just entertainment, media in general, and also somewhere where people could be invited to if they wanted to talk with me, or if they wanted to do debates or something like that. I can just invite them and then pull them into my live stream chat and do it that way. I noticed the chat is not on the screen. I think I did not add a chat box. Give me 1 second. I'll fix that. Chat box. Let's just add a chat box. Let's see, where is it at? Let's put chat over there somewhere. Lock this. Let's see. Why is my chat box not showing up? Maybe I need to sign in. Hold on. Let's go over here to the stream. Open a browser. Yeah, it's OBS. I mean, I can see the chat on the side. It's not showing on my display. Oh, no, there we go. Now it's showing. Y'all can see that now, right? Someone type something. Yeah, I think she's using OBS. Yeah, it's right there. It's just on a, it's on a delay. I should probably remove the delay. Yeah, something, lol. Thank you, Lilith. So, it's going to be, just streaming today. I think, hold on, I'll put the Discord link. Actually. Let me use my phone for this so that Discord doesn't do anything weird. Like take over my camera. That would be a little frustrating. Either that or Lilith, you could post it. But I can also do it. Let's see. Invites. Copied it. And just give me 1 second and I will post it. Why can I not say? Actually, I'll just send it to you, Lilith. Because for some reason I can't get my chat to open. That's the Discord link. You should be able to... I sent it to you on Discord. You should be able to copy it and just stick it in the chat. But there is a lot of politics to get to. I saw, everybody's been talking about the Venezuela stuff. Maduro, obviously, bombing the country, going over there and abducting their president while our government is simultaneously saying that that's not war is just really ridiculous, honestly. It's so ashamed to be an American right now. It's so frustrating. This, imperialism, it's just so frustrating. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you miss Idea and Morgan, don't worry. They will occasionally be on stream with me as well. There you go. There's the Discord link. So if anybody wants to join our server, which is going to be damn awesome media, just make sure you read the server rules. But I could also pull people in if they want to chat with us eventually or do debates. But for right now, I think I just want to chill and play some games for a while. I'm probably going to go ahead and play... So what I want to talk about today is going to be the deposition that Jack Smith did and the evidence, against Trump. Because I was saying before the election that, his only chance to not go to jail was going to be elected. If our country is just dumb enough to elect this guy again, then he can avoid prison. If it wasn't for getting elected, then he would have gone to jail, almost certainly. And just the overwhelming amount of evidence that I felt at the time that was publicly available. This is well before the deposition came out. The deposition dropped, I want to say, on New Year's Eve. And then right after that, it just got bumped out of the news with everything going on with Venezuela. And then, of course, Trump announcing that he's entertaining the idea of going after Greenland. And Greenland and saying that he might attack Mexico, which is just utterly ridiculous. What great allies we are. And I love all the people that said that he wasn't a fascist before the election. And this was an ever-moving goalpost where they would say stuff like, oh, well, he can't be a fascist because he's not disrupting the global hegemony. He can't be a fascist because he's not disrupting trade. And I'm just what do you think him going to a trade war with all the tariffs? What is that? That's disrupting trade, right? And then if we go and look at, oh, we're just going to go attack some other country and abduct their president. Okay, are we not now disrupting global hegemony, especially because like China condemned this? Or are you going to say, well, it's not global because it's still our hemisphere, which would just be like the dumbest claim I could imagine. But I'm sure like some people would move the goalpost and try and say, unless he's going into other hemispheres and doing things, like, I don't know, backing Israel, would that not be disrupting global hegemony? Talking about taking Greenland, right? That's that's the Arctic Circle, like up near there. How would that not qualify? They just have like no standards whatsoever for their claims. It's like every time you ask them about something, they just indefinitely move the goalpost on this. And I know that the deposition is something like 8 hours, 8.5 hours. That is a long deposition. And with so many people not even paying attention to it because it got bumped out of the news with the Venezuela stuff going on, like most people aren't even going to be aware of what's in the deposition. But it's going to take a while to get through it. It's 8.5 hours. So, like, I could either watch it by myself, y'all could watch it by yourself, or we could sit down together and listen to it and talk about it, which is what I want to do today. I might end up dividing this stream into like 2 separate streams and do like 4 hours of it today, 4 hours of it tomorrow, which is probably what I'll do just so that this video doesn't take like days to render for doing like an 8-hour stream. And I might put it on double speed in the playback just so we can like quickly get through it and maybe get through it in 4 hours. Otherwise, I'll do 4 hours one day, 4 hours the next day, just because I do want to listen to the full thing. That way I'm aware of everything that happened with it and all the evidence that we currently know from Jack Smith that would be available, because this was a case that I was very interested in to see like if Trump was actually going to be held accountable. I know a lot of people are very doomer right now because it just seems like every single safeguard that our democracy has had just seems like it has failed, right? Every single time that you would think that, well, this next thing is going to be what, you know, gets Trump or stops Trump. The next, you know, he endorses something, he says some racist thing. It's like surely his support will wane. He does all these illegal actions. Surely Congress will step in and stop him. The threatening our allies, trade wars that he's doing. It's just like time after time, you would see things and think like, surely there's a limit here. Surely the safeguards of the system will kick in and he will be held accountable or removed from office, or people will say enough, and we don't see that. But I was thinking that with how long that deposition is, instead of just sitting through 8 boring hours, I was thinking that I could get on and stream some video games and keep y'all entertained with stuff going on in the background here, which I can also talk about and kind of explain what I'm doing, like what exactly is going on in this game. Right now, I'm just leveling up a warrior, like in preparation for the next expansion. I have a ton of characters. I've played this game for over 20 years at this point. So I can explain like whatever is going on in there. If you just want to watch gameplay and chill, then like you can also just hang out with us. If you're bored or lonely or feel like you like need some queer friends, or if you want to comment or join the conversation, you can always talk to other people in the audience, or I might address something that you say, depending on if it's directed at us or not. But I figured that this would just be something to do that I can do in the background. And like, I want to start streaming. When I say I want to start streaming more often, I might start doing like daily gaming streams where I get on, talk about politics and that sort of thing, because I find just sitting and listening to politics, well, I might enjoy that. A lot of people, that's just not their cup of tea, especially like debates and stuff like that. So I wanted to like do something in the background while I was also talking about this stuff, just so that there are things that might interest you or entertain you, or like interesting gameplay that you might enjoy. It might not always be WoW. It'll probably be WoW most of the time. But I might play like some DRG or something like that, because I also like Deep Rock Galactic, which is what that game is. Hopefully, if y'all join the server, it'll be a place for you to like hang out, meet other like queer people, I am also a writer, and I'm publishing a book soon. I have several books that I'll be publishing over the next, like, probably a year and a half. So, like, I might talk about that sort of stuff as well. Talk about, like, writing craft periodically. So if you ever have, like, writing questions, or maybe I'll do, like, writing sprints sometimes with y'all and just kind of hang out. Either way, I feel like I've been gone, like, for way too long. I haven't been streaming. I never, like, made a serious effort to kind of pursue this. So I figured 2026, why the hell not? Right? The worst that could happen is I try and, like, don't find success with it. Like, who cares? But there are so many bad faith actors and, like, influencers and streamers that they're terrible people. Like, they lack virtue. If you follow their advice, your life is just going to get worse. They just spread, like hatred among the communities where they fester in. And, like, not every conservative is the same in this way. But I will say, like, on the far end, you definitely find more of these kind of incel conservatives, you know, mass shooters and these types. And the right pretends that they don't exist, but we can talk about it and go over a whole bunch of that stuff. But those are my plans for today. I figured the Jack Smith deposition, also playing some WoW. I might do streams with, like, friends and stuff, and do like maybe like a political podcast is something else that I'm thinking about getting into. Just because there's obviously having multiple points of view can be entertaining, and can also, like, just offer more perspectives. Not everybody, like, has to agree with me or my takes, and, you know, I welcome people that want to disagree. However, for right now, I'm just going to start streaming on my own, and then if other people get involved later on, I think, like, the more the merrier type of thing, or like a rising tide lifts all ships type of thing. And we will just see where this year takes us. You know, I'm excited to actually, like, make a go at this channel and see, like, where we can go. I'll still upload videos periodically, but it'll probably be, like, clips from my streams. The podcast, if we start doing that, it's not going to be this. It's not going to be playing video games while we talk over it. It'll be, like, me and my co-hosts sitting around and talking about, you know, the politics of the day and things that we noticed, and just kind of a focus on general media, which is hence the server name of Discord is going to be Damn Awesome Media. Just talk about film, books, and, like, everything in between, as well as, like, some politics, just because everything is influenced by politics. It just seems silly to watch movies or read books and not take any consideration of the politics of people that are involved with it. At any rate, I think I'm going to start the deposition with Jack Smith in just a minute, and we will get into it, because there is a lot to go over. Just give me 1 second. I want to check on some stuff in the background.
Champion. I am glad my major domo has brought you to me safely. But what brings you here so urgently?
Yeah, it's funny that you should ask. Have you ever seen a dragon egg?
Greetings.
Look. I like how she's like, what brings you here? And then in the video, you have, like, this giant egg that you're handing over. It's just like, what? Like, you didn't notice the giant egg that we have? Oh, well. So,
Through their eyes, you may come to
I'm going to turn down the volume on the game, and I'm going to play the deposition audio in the background. That way we can hear what Jack Smith is saying. Now, keep in mind, one of the reasons why I'm not going to, like, switch over and play the video in the browser, it's literally just Jack Smith and lawyers sitting in a room. That's it. So I want to go through and play the audio while I keep the game on the stream. And thanks, Lilith. Yeah, I've played the game for a minute. I tend to go, like, a little quicker. I'm started off like I think whenever I started the stream, I think I was like level 16, something like that. So it'll kind of be fun to also see this character grow as I play the game because like I'm just starting it right now before the next expansion. We'll see how far we can take her. She's my little orc, Zug Zug. Greetings, Hana. How are you? Just want to power through the leveling. The other thing that I thought would be fun is that I had mentioned debating before and like making videos and stuff like that. And I do want to do debates and talk with people, especially on like queer rights and issues on like feminism, pluralism. If people want to, debate any kind of like social issues, like progressive values, I would definitely be down to debate that sort of stuff or debate things like the Christian God and why that God is probably evil. But that's just my take. Uh, and it'll be kind of fun overall just to see kind of like if I'm starting this as kind of a beginner walking into these spaces, it'll be fun, I guess. If you like debates or if you want to get into debating yourself, I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of start this journey together. And you can laugh whenever I make mistakes and see how far we can go and who all we can debate, right? Because obviously my goal isn't to just debate random people. Like I would like to debate like specific influencers over time, but that would be very ambitious and like imagining if I even like had any notoriety whatsoever. Because obviously you can't just like be like, oh hey, I want to go debate I don't know, a Matt Walsh or something like that. And the stream has been so so far so good. I'm just playing some WoW and talking in general, like kind of life updates and politics of what I want to do eventually. Got everything turned down because I was going to listen to the Jack Smith deposition and try and get through that because it's going to be a long video. So I turned down the audio here and we're going to listen to Jack Smith talking to some lawyers about the evidence that he had against Donald Trump. I might double time the audio if they talk too slow. And I normally I would just switch over and do like, here's the browser and we can watch the video in the browser. It literally is just Jack Smith sitting there with a lawyer. And everyone else is kind of off screen. They're in a courtroom. So like, unless I'm just going to stare at Jack Smith's head for 8 hours, I figured we could probably play some games while we're listening to that, just so that it's not just the same screen over and over and over for 8 hours. I can maybe keep you entertained, leveling up a my orc warrior in the background while we go through it. And just for the record, I'll hop off the horse in a second. Look at my look at my girl. Look at her. Yeah. Let's go beat up some people. That's what I want to do. Yeah, exactly. I was like, you know what? You can watch me grow in debating and grow my channel, and you can watch my little characters grow in level and get more powerful, especially with like Midnight coming out in the next like few months. So I figured it would be good to start getting all the characters like leveled and geared up that I'd want to possibly play. And I think I'm going to go like probably like warrior, death knight, shaman, and demon hunter. I think are the characters that I want to main right now. I might also try paladin, but like I don't know. I really hate the themes behind paladins, you know? I don't feel like, oh, I'm a soldier of the light or whatever. I'm like, oh no, ew, get it off me. Get away from me, light. Like, I don't need you to mind whammy me, control me, try to like bend my will to your like unyielding sense of justice where you'll like mind control people, you know? Like I don't like the light is very sus in this game, much like the light would be sus if it actually existed, you know, if Christians could actually wield light powers and like remove diseases from people and raise the dead and that sort of thing. The idea of their their Christian God is like, yeah, you don't want to be an authoritarian sycophant. No, no, thank you. I'm not a Christian nationalist, and I prefer to, if I can exercise some will without some like sky daddy being like, oh, I'm gonna torture you forever. I'm positive. Hey, I have talent points. Uh, let's see. Do I want to be enraged? I want to be an angry girl. There we go. All right, I'm going to get to the Jack Smith testimony. If it starts getting boring, I'll just turn the volume back up and just game and keep talking about stuff in general. But like, I'm genuinely interested in this to see kind of like what information they actually had, because like I remember watching the news and it was just like story after story of the stuff that Trump was getting into. Wait, did I miss a ring? Yeah, lol. There we go. Oh, fuck you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can't believe it. Literally. It's been years since I missed a ring on this quest. That's hilarious. I guess I should actually watch my stream instead of trying to read chat. Say, oh yeah, you gotta focus, girl. Actually watch where you're flying. I guess if I was like driving, you should do the same thing. Watch where you're going. Keep your eyes on the floating rings. All right, let's pull this up. So, I remember, just as a refresher, Donald Trump committed all sorts of crimes. Remember him taking documents to Mar-a-Lago and storing them in his bathroom? Remember that? I remember him also calling Georgia and telling them that they needed to find him 11,000 votes in Georgia from his claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Where he's like, "Oh, give me a break, find me it's 11,000 votes." Like, it's very it's very obvious that those were both crimes, and that wasn't even just the bribery stuff that he had going on in New York. Right. Yeah, I remember he kept complaining about the about the toilet in the White House like needing to be repaired. He's like, "Oh, you got to flush it like 13 times." And everyone's like, "Why is Trump flushing the toilet like 13 times?" And it turns out that he's like flushing our national secrets down the toilet. That's what he's doing. Then it turns out that like he had those documents just laying around where like anyone could come in and just take them and copy them and send them over. Like it was just a farce. And that's not even, I mean, we're not even remotely close to touching the Epstein files yet. And just all the stuff that happened with all of that. Like, the guy is almost certainly a P3DO. And if he's not himself, he's a protector and defender of them. Best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and all that. I would say they're the Trumpstein files is what they should have called them, because he's all over them, like, so much. Kyle, this is dementia. You say dementia. I was like, diabolical. This is diabolical is what it is. But I just wanted to add some context, because like I know it's been a minute and there's been so much crap that's happened since he got elected that like the year before, where a lot of these the evidence is being gathered for these crimes just seems to have like fallen out of the media attention. It's like no one cares because he got elected. But there's also the January 6th stuff where he was telling the protesters, quote unquote, to go storm the Capitol and to fight like hell. And people like directly under his influence took the fight there, and like they were going to go kill members of Congress. Like this is stuff, like so much stuff happened that people don't remember. It's like it got memory hold or whatever, just because of the sheer amount of overwhelming garbage. It's so easy to just forget all of this stuff. So we're going to do our best to make sure that everyone remembers that and checks what Jack has to say, because like I am kind of fascinated. I remember the pictures that they were posting of Smith like carrying like a Subway sandwich under his arm, and like he goes to Subway every day, and they're trying to like put pressure on him. Oh yeah, they're trying to put pressure on like Letitia Jackson to drop the case against Trump. They're like trying to engage in like intimidation and bribery. Trump got his mugshot taken in Georgia. Like there was so much stuff that happened that people have just memory hold, because it's like, well, he's president, so it doesn't really matter. No, it still matters. And a lot of those cases were not close. He had 32 felony counts he's found guilty of. And in that case, the judge, after he got elected, was just like, oh, well, you know, I'm just not going to do anything. He gets no prison time. Can you imagine if that was me or you? Charged with 32 felony counts that were found guilty of. You think that the court system would have just said, oh, you actually get no time at all? Like, we're not going to prosecute you? Like, we're not going to actually sentence you to anything for that? No. Is outrageous. But here's the thing. That, like, a lot of people that kind of just let this drop and go away don't remember. And that's that a lot of the cases against Trump were not dismissed. They were put on hold. So there is the very real possibility that after Trump is out of the presidency, if there is not Republicans still protecting him in the DOJ, like let's say JD Vance isn't in charge of you know who's selected for the FBI, so that our enforcement agencies will actually do their jobs again instead of playing like, you know, political sycophantic puppets to this man, that he could be prosecuted. And Pam Bondi and all these people that have been following illegal orders and issuing illegal orders and interfering with investigations and terminating evidence, all these people will be prosecuted. Oh yeah, no. If Obama had been charged with half the shit that Trump was charged with, he would have been prosecuted. They've been frothing at the mouth, and that's the thing, is they'll say like, oh, well, there's a what did Trump call it? He called it lawfare, like using the legal system to go after your enemies, that like warfare but lawfare. And he's like, oh, this is lawfare and being unfairly prosecuted. And I'm just like, but meanwhile, he's doing every single thing that he claims. Like, do you think that Joe Biden was actually using like lawfare against Trump? That like Georgia is the state that took his mugshot. Biden is not in charge of Georgia. I'm sorry, who's in charge of Georgia? Brian Kemp. And isn't Kemp what? He's a Republican. So like Biden had the Republicans in his pocket as well? Like, it just doesn't make any sense when you think about it. And the issue that these Republicans have, like, that's never going to stop being a problem for them. And this is something that Stephen Colbert talked about on his show as like as a joke. But I actually think that he made a really good point with this stuff. I guess it would help if I also put on the gear I was getting. Holy crap. He coined a term called truthiness. And when what he was talking about was that truthiness is where somebody will automatically believe something that comports with other beliefs that they already have. So like, I guess in philosophy, you would just say it's like a coherence theory of truth. But essentially, if they accept something as true, if they hear something else that sounds like it could be true, if their other beliefs were accurate, then it must be true. So they could say something like, let's just say Epstein was an agent of Mossad, right? He's a Mossad spy. If they actually believe that and they're only basing it not on evidence but on truthiness, then essentially they would just say, anything that they hear about Epstein, like, oh, he had secret files on Hillary, or he has secret files on all these corrupt Democrats, they would just say, oh, well, that comports with their belief that the Democrats are all corrupt, and that, that the Democrats are somehow responsible for like some Epstein hoax. Therefore, that would automatically be true because it has truthiness to it. They're like, oh, it's probably true. And since it's probably true, it is true. That's just an example. Although I will give a lot of conservatives credit. A lot of them saw through the bullshit when it came to the Epstein files. Trump spent years beating on this drum that the Epstein files are, the Clintons are in there, and there's some elite group of people that are abusing children. We had Alex Jones talking about things like Pizzagate. I remember all this stuff. They spent years building this up, only for Trump at the very end to he tried not to release the files. And then he said that the files don't exist. Then he said that, okay, well, the files do exist, but they're a Democrat hoax. And it's like, why are you defending this so much? Why are you pivoting so much on this? Why are you being so evasive? And we all know why at this point. It really is like, yeah, exactly, Hana. Every confession or every accusation is a confession. Among the Republicans, it seems that way. It's just wild. But some of this stuff seems to be catching up with them. At least when it comes to the Epstein stuff. It seems like some people actually stuck to their guns on it and were following through on it. But that being said, I've been rambling on for a while. Let's start listening to the deposition because it is very long and I cannot believe I've spent almost 40 minutes just like yakking on my own. I guess I do enjoy talking a lot. But, it's part of the job description at this point. All right, so I'm going to start playing the deposition, and I'm just going to ask y'all if you make sure that y'all can hear it, that the audio is good. Let's see. Where are you at, Jack? Oh yeah, I should pay attention to what I'm doing too. Gotta fight a dragon. Alright, dragon's dead. Check.
Mr. Brewer. Thank you, Mr. Castor. On behalf of Laney Brewer and myself, we do have some preliminary remarks that we would like to make.
Can y'all hear that?
Mr. Smith is committed to providing information to this committee about the work of the Special Counsel's Office, while following all laws and rules restricting a former prosecutor's ability to disclose certain information. To that end, we appreciate the committee's assistance in working with the Department of Justice to provide Mr. Smith with authorization and clarification on the parameters around Mr. Smith's testimony today. Of course, some restrictions remain on Mr. Smith's testimony, two of which I would like to highlight before we begin. First, as the committee is aware, in its letter of December 11th, 2025, the Justice Department admonished Mr. Smith that he is not authorized to divulge information that is prohibited by law or courts, including that which is subject to Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E. It is our understanding from communications with the committee and the Justice Department that DOJ is interpreting a matter under Rule 6E to be limited to the inner workings of the grand jury. On a call with committee staff and with the Department of Justice on December 11th to discuss the scope and application of grand jury secrecy requirements, Assistant Attorney General Patrick Davis agreed with Mr. Castor's statement that based on DOJ's authorization.
Hey, welcome, apostate. Yeah. That sounds good. We're going to listen to the Jack Smith deposition while we have some video games playing in the background. You are definitely welcome to hang out with us. I might turn the speed of it down just a little bit so it's a little bit more clear. Like, I want to get through it, but at the same time, we need to be able to understand everything they're saying as well. And I know the audio is going pretty quick. I can track it that quick, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to, like, lose y'all to scrambled audio. Let's slow it down just a little bit.
Authorization letter and its interpretation of Rule 6E, it would be virtually impossible for DOJ to prosecute Mr. Smith for violating grand jury secrecy restrictions.
No, let's go back up.
Second,
That's too
according
slow.
to the Justice Department, discussion of Volume 2 of the Special Counsel's report and any information or conclusions in Volume 2 or in drafts thereof is specifically prohibited by Judge Cannon's January 21st, 2025 order. This morning, just over an hour ago, the Department of Justice sent us an email affirming its view that Judge Cannon's order applies to Mr. Smith and that it precludes him from disclosing any non-public information that may be contained in Volume 2, including, but not limited to, interview transcripts, search warrant materials, business records, toll records, video footage, records obtained by grand jury subpoenas, attorney-client communications, and potential Rule 404B evidence. This restriction significantly limits Mr. Smith's ability to discuss the classified documents case. Nevertheless, Mr. Smith is committed to doing his best to answering questions consistent with the department's guidance. And I asked that that email from the Department of Justice that was sent earlier this morning be made part of the record.
It's too bad they couldn't have.
Thank you.
You know, I wish they had released this before the election, right? If this was available and they could have gotten it out like a year ago, it would have been good to know before the election. I don't know why we have to wait all the way until now to get it, but whatever.
I also want to clarify that the email from the Department of Justice says that Mr. Smith can disclose information in answering questions where that information is in the public record and has been made publicly available through authorized means. And I want to specifically cite that language because yesterday, the Department of Justice disclosed to Senator Grassley some emails related to the execution of the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. I anticipate that those emails may be used during today's deposition and that Mr. Smith may be asked questions about that search warrant and the probable cause supporting the search warrant that was signed by a judge in the Southern District of Florida. And I just want to confirm our understanding that because those emails were released by the Department of Justice to Chairman Grassley, everyone here has a mutual understanding that those emails were made publicly available through authorized means.
And we would concur with that. In our discussion with the Justice Department, and it was in the context of the member toll records subpoenas, they indicated that documents that are in the public realm are fair game for discussion and don't apply to the 6E prohibition of the disclosure of 6E material. And we would further acknowledge that if Senator Grassley posted these materials on his official website, that is an authorized release. I mean, these are materials
just
that
sat on
were
it for
produced to
so
the
long.
House and the Senate, and if Senator Grassley posted them publicly, they are certainly part of the public record.
Thank you, Mr. Castor. We are in agreement.
Pastor, I just have one thing for the record.
Yeah, it's almost as if there's like a secret group of elites that are ultra wealthy trying to protect Trump.
Noted.
Thank you. My understanding is that if, for whatever reason, the questions today move into an area that we believe Mr. Smith cannot answer because of some legal restriction, we have reached an agreement with the committee staff that we will raise our concern in the moment to see if we can navigate around the restrictions. And if we are unable, we will move on to another topic and then revisit that issue during a break or at the end of the day. Yes.
Just to augment what my partner said, we had proposed to the Department of Justice that it have a lawyer here present today, so that if any issue came up, we could immediately resolve it, because Mr. Smith is committed to answering every question he can lawfully. The Department of Justice chose not to have a lawyer here today.
Thank you. Finally, I feel compelled to make an observation about the risks of participating in this deposition. The most powerful person in the world has said that Mr. Smith should be in jail because of his work as special counsel. Not because Jack did anything wrong, but because he had the audacity to follow the facts and the law and apply them to that powerful person. And through its actions, this Justice Department has demonstrated its eagerness to follow President Trump's orders, despite the facts and the law. Yesterday, the President's Chief of Staff is reported to have confirmed in interviews that the President is indeed pursuing criminal prosecutions against his perceived adversaries as part of a retribution campaign. In the face of those threats, Mr. Smith appears today undaunted, comforted by the knowledge that not only did he do nothing wrong, he conducted his work as special counsel with integrity, impartiality, and
Yeah, remember Trump? Oh, I did everything right and they indicted me. Yeah, what a crybaby.
an uncompromising commitment to the rule of law.
And he's like
the
trying
committee
to
will allow
criminally
Mr. Smith to have some
prosecute them
remarks if
as
he
if
likes to
that's
share.
not the
Before that, I would just
lawfare
note from
that he was
Exhibit
talking
4
about.
of the December 11th Justice Department letter, they specifically say, the last paragraph on page 2, as to your question about the department's recent disclosure to Congress of certain internal communications considering whether to authorize toll record subpoenas, which Congress publicly released on November 25th, 2025, you are correct that the department does not believe that the specific materials it produced to Congress are covered by 6E for the reasons described above.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. That's helpful. We are in agreement on that. My concern is that that doesn't address Judge Cannon's order, which the department has said Mr. Smith is still bound by because the toll record subpoenas were not part of the classified documents case. And so Judge Cannon's order is a separate legal restriction that exists independent of Rule 60.
Okay.
Right.
And I would just note on our call with the Justice Department.
Judge Eileen Cannon, for those of you who don't remember this name, she was a Trump appointee and was like very loyal to him. And like most of the decisions that have come from her have all been in Trump's favor. But this is like a judge that is in his back pocket, essentially. And that's why I'm sure they're trying to be like extra careful, because if they violate some order that she gave, like they'll use that as an excuse to either invalidate the deposition or to prosecute people for violating it. Because remember, when Trump had like a gag order issued against him, he violated it numerous times, over and over and over. He violated court orders. Nothing ever happened to him. But if one of us or someone else violates an order that a judge gave that was like on his behalf, oh no, they'll absolutely be held accountable and prosecuted, like almost guaranteed. You're not allowed to go against Trump or to listen to anyone. Like if it's one of Trump's judges, you have to follow their commands. But if it's any other judge, especially if they're a Democrat or a more of a leftist, then their orders basically don't matter. And Trump feels like he and his people should just be able to violate them as much as they want to, which is the entire reason why he was trying to have the Supreme Court rule that federal judges in other states can't issue like injunctions and stuff against the president. They're trying to weaken the ability of judges to issue injunctions because they want Trump to be able to do whatever he wants to and to be unchecked by the judiciary. That's what their goal is in that.
Their position was, of course, he can talk about it if it's in the public realm. And that admonition from the department was not limited to, the toll records question or something in Judge Cannon.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you have some remarks as well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss my work as special counsel. I was taught as a young prosecutor to follow the facts and the law, and to do so without fear or favor, to do the right thing the right way for the right reasons. For nearly 3 decades, I've been a career prosecutor. I've served during both Republican and Democratic administrations, and I've been guided by those principles in every role I've held.
Yeah, don't forget to
I continue
add
to honor
you're
those principles
a
when I was
Chad,
appointed to serve as special counsel in November of 2022. The decision to bring charges against President Trump was mine, but the basis for those charges rests entirely with President Trump and his actions, as alleged in the indictments returned by grand juries in 2 different districts. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power. Our investigation also developed powerful evidence that showed that President Trump willfully retained highly classified documents after he left office in January of 2021, storing them at his social club, including in a ballroom and a bathroom. He then repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. I remain grateful for the counsel, judgment, and advice of my team as I executed my responsibilities. I am both saddened and angered that President Trump has sought revenge against career prosecutors, FBI agents, and support staff simply for doing their jobs and for having worked on those cases. These dedicated public servants are the best of us, and they have been wrongly vilified and improperly dismissed from their jobs. I made my decisions in the investigation without regard to President Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 presidential election. We took our actions based on the facts and the law, the very lessons I learned early in my career as a prosecutor. We followed Justice Department policies and observed legal requirements. The timing and speed of our work reflects the strength of the evidence and our confidence that we would have secured convictions at trial. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Republican or a Democrat. Recent narratives about my team's work are false and misleading, including stories about our collection of toll records. Toll records were sought for historical telephone routing information, collected after calls had taken place, identifying the incoming and outgoing call numbers, the time of the calls and their duration. Toll records do not include the content of calls. Those records were lawfully subpoenaed and were relevant to complete a comprehensive investigation. January 6th was an attack on the structure of our democracy in which over 140 heroic law enforcement officers were assaulted. Over 160 individuals later pled guilty to assaulting police that day. Exploiting that violence, President Trump and his associates tried to call members of Congress in furtherance of their criminal scheme, urging them to further delay certification of the 2020 election. I did not choose those members. President Trump did. I hope that my testimony today serves to correct these mischaracterizations about my work, and to that end, I welcome your questions.
We can get you a copy. Yeah.
You just made some pretty definitive statements about your belief that President Trump was guilty of these charges. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe we had proof beyond a reasonable doubt in both cases.
And doesn't the Justice Manual prohibit prosecutors from asserting that the defendant is guilty of something before a jury makes a determination?
When a case is pending, yes.
Okay, and so you think you're free from that, from the Justice Manual rules? Once a case is dismissed.
No, I think that it's important to state clearly the amount of evidence we had and the basis for why we proceeded. Why we proceeded as we did is because we had a strong case, as I set forth in the final report.
But your final report makes what seems to be conclusive determinations of President Trump's guilt, as opposed to laying out simply the facts and the evidence that you have. I mean, you draw those conclusions that, in your view, he's guilty. Is that not the case?
Well, to be clear, the cases were never tried. We were never put to our burden before a jury, so we didn't conclusively prove it. The reason the report was written the way it was written, and the reason I said what I just said, is because it was our belief that if we went to trial, we would prevail.
But your report differs. If you look at Special Counsel Herr's report and Special Counsel Mueller's report, the language that you use and the way you describe the things that you believe President Trump committed, is different. Herr was careful to use words like jurors could find or might, at most would likely conclude, whereas the language you use is pretty definitive.
Yeah.
The Herr report.
Surprise, surprise! You're allowed to have beliefs, right? In a court of law, you could say, "Oh well, this is what I believe." 100%. Right, that's what I would want to do. Like, I want to, I want to like just debate and game. Like, I feel like that's a fun thing to do. Definitely, and welcome in. It seems like it would be something more fun to do than just sitting and debating in front of a screen. Like, actually giving people something to look at. We're going over Jack Smith's deposition because I just feel like not a lot of people talked about it or covered it. Which is unfortunate. The stuff with Venezuela is very serious, and like it's absolute trash what our foreign policy is right now. It's just absolute garbage. But people should still be aware of this. It should still have been talked about way more than it was, because this is like pretty eye-opening stuff. I feel like Trump was obviously guilty in these cases, and I agree with Jack Smith. It is my belief that Trump was guilty of this. Just all the evidence that I read, all the evidence I saw ahead of time. And that was just the stuff that was publicly available.
States his assessment of the evidence. Mine does as well. And as I said, I feel and feel to this day that we have a very strong case, so I communicated that.
Okay.
Choosing
But you
ruthless
agree it's all the
aggression,
jury, not the special
WWE,
counsel,
you know?
to weigh the facts and determine guilt.
Use the
Ultimately, yes.
chair.
And then one other thing about relating to your statement, and we'll get into
Yeah,
this.
if he
a little later
wasn't
on, but the
elected
toll records
president,
subpoenas for
he
members of
probably would have been
Congress,
arrested. Like,
have
I
some very-
really
we have some
believe
very
that he
serious
would have gone to
concerns
jail.
about acquiring these toll records, relating to senators and members of the House. I mean, members of the House and the Senate have protections under the Constitution that
Sorry, Doc.
allows them speech or debate protections.
It's just
And the
pixels.
toll record subpoenas, in our view, and if we had to litigate it, the House lawyers would take the position.
So I always
that those
tell
toll record
myself
subpoenas
every time they
violate,
ask me to
the
go
speech
do a
or
bunch of like
debate protections.
non-vegan things.
And is that something you disagree with?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get into that a little bit later. We first wrote to you on October 14th, inviting you to testify. And then we worked with the Justice Department and your counsel to make sure you had access to everything you needed to prepare for today. Did that occur? Did you have enough access to the information you needed to prepare?
Yes.
Okay, so we asked the Justice Department to make all
Oh
your
yeah,
files
they're
available,
like, oh,
to allow you to
vegans,
go to
go
the Justice
kill a
Department whenever you
million
wanted to,
animals.
with your lawyers, whoever you wanted to. And I just wanted to confirm that,
But,
that
you know,
had
I
the
mean,
opportunity to
you gotta
review
kill a
whatever you
lot of
needed in the
humanoids,
files before
too.
today.
Yes, we reviewed the files.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm ready.
There may be an issue with classified materials. We don't intend to ask you anything about anything classified. Obviously, if your security clearance is no longer valid, there's an issue on that front. But everything except classified information was supposed to be made available to you, and I just want to confirm that that was the case.
Yeah,
I'm
and I'm
not sure if
glad that
everything
you're
was.
here.
For example, the emails of people on my staff. I'm not sure I had access to that, but we did spend, consistent with what you said, time at the Department of Justice, and we had the opportunity to review
Okay.
files.
And that access was
Heart,
made available
Kyle.
early, like November 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And
I just feel like
I think you guys
it's
started
better
reviewing
to
it
do
somewhat
some
shortly
gaming while
thereafter.
you're also
sounds about
listening
right.
to it. So it's not just staring at guys in suits.
You have referenced in your pleadings, I believe, and also in public statements you've made, the famous Robert Jackson speech entitled "The Federal Prosecutor" that he delivered at the second annual conference of the United States Attorneys in 1940. You're familiar with the Robert Jackson speech?
I am, yes.
Okay. And this is widely available on the internet. I didn't make copies for everybody. Everybody can Google it right now as long as your phones are working. And I'm just going to flag some things that Robert Jackson said and just get your reaction to see if you agree with it or not. He says in the second sentence, "The prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than any other person in America. His discretion is tremendous." Do you agree with that?
I agree that prosecutors have a lot of discretion, yes.
Jackson stated, "While the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst." Do you agree with that?
I do.
On page 4 of his remarks,
So I feel like they're just trying to set up Jack Smith here to be like, oh, we're going to try to make sure that, like, if you assert anything about the president, that we can say that you're being careless with your rhetoric, that you're trying to character assassinate him. It's like Trump assassinated his own character. Like, to say that you could tarnish Trump's character is farcical. Like, I can't imagine anyone would hear Jack Smith's deposition and come away thinking of Trump any worse than they already did going into it, especially because this information is publicly available. So this entire line of questioning about, like, oh, well, I just want to make sure that you're aware that prosecutors have responsibility in what they're saying, and not to just damage someone's reputation. It's like, this is publicly available stuff. Unless Jack starts making up facts within the case, then I don't think that, I don't think there's anything to talk about. This is like a waste of time.
in the penultimate paragraph, Attorney General Jackson states, "What every prosecutor is practically required to do is to select the cases for prosecution and to select those in which the offense is the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain." Would you agree with that?
Yes.
If a prosecutor is obliged to choose his cases, it follows that he can choose his defendants. Therein is the most dangerous power of the prosecutor, that he will pick people he thinks he should get, rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted. With the law books filled with a great assortment of crimes, a prosecutor stands a fair chance of finding at least a technical violation of some act on the part of almost anyone. In such a case, it's not a question of discovering the commission of a crime and then looking for the man who committed it. It is a question of picking the man and then searching the law books or putting investigators to work to pin some offenses on him. Do you agree with that?
I do, I think, yes.
Okay. It is here that law enforcement becomes personal, and the real crime becomes that of being unpopular.
They're like, it's not spicy enough. You need to go get more spices. It's like white people spice now. Go spice it up some more. Then you're like, okay, here's more spices. They're like, oh no, that's like Jamaican hot. That's not hot enough. You need to go get more spice. And it's like, okay, well, now it's Thai hot. And they're like, okay, great. Now go burn it to a crisp and ruin it. I'm like, what is this quest?
With the predominant or governing group, being attached to the wrong political views, or being personally obnoxious to or in the way of the prosecutor himself. Do you agree that that is a concern?
These are principles, and I agree with these principles.
Okay. In times of fear or hysteria, political, racial, religious, social, and economic groups often, from the best of motives, cry for the scalps of individuals or groups because they do not like their views.
Okay, so talking about rhetoric, let's just talk rhetorically real quick. Do y'all spot what I spot with what this guy is doing? So inside of the questions that he's asking, there's essentially there's implied arguments. There's like implicit statements that he's making where he's wanting to gear you up to think about Jack Smith doing this, of like, oh, well, because Trump has an odious character, a prosecutor that doesn't like him could just select him. And because the law book has so many laws in it that if you put anyone under a microscope, you could probably find some violation of a law, which would be trivial, but you could like convict them on some technicality of something. And it's like, do you agree with that? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with that? And they're doing a rhetorical strategy where essentially you get somebody to agree with what you're saying. Like, yes, 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 I agree principally on this. I agree principally on this. But what he's not going to say is that Trump would be the exception in this case. None of the things that he's saying would apply to Trump. Trump wasn't prosecuted because he's an odious person or like morally offensive. Trump wasn't facing prosecution because somebody didn't like him. Trump was facing prosecution, just to be clear, because we're talking about the January 6th riots specifically, because he rallied a bunch of followers and sycophants that he had into an angry mob, sent them into the Capitol building where they had constructed gallows outside of it, and were chanting "Hang Mike Pence." And there were other people, Proud Boys and some of the Oath Keepers, that had like literally pallets full of guns that they had brought into Washington, like in preparation for this event. And they were constantly talking about overthrowing the government. This is after Trump had spent months with some of his allies making a list of fake legislators so that he could try and convince Mike Pence to supplant the actual state slate of legislatures to replace them with the fake one, claim that they don't know what's going on, because who knows, there's 2 slates of legislatures, so we're going to have to throw it out and send it back to the states and let the governors decide who's actually going to be elected. Well, treason, it's funny that you mentioned treason. So treason is like, there's within the law, there's specific parameters for it. And while I don't, treason is like working with a foreign enemy against the nation. I don't think January 6th was treason, but it absolutely was sedition. And it also says that within, I think it's under the 14th Amendment, that anyone that would priorly held office that would have been convicted of sedition or committed sedition against the government, which he absolutely did, was ineligible for office, like to hold any position again. He shouldn't even have been able to run for president again. He's disqualified under the Constitution. And this actually came up during the election cycle, which, like I said, there's so much stuff. So I know a lot of stuff happened very quick. A lot of people don't remember this stuff. So, like, I don't blame you if you weren't, like, keeping track of this. But Michigan and California both, and I think also Nevada, tried to say that Trump wasn't allowed on their ballot. And this ended up getting kicked to the Supreme Court, where they started fighting over this to say, like, could states say that Trump was ineligible, and if enough states said that he's ineligible, then would that actually become a national thing? And I would argue under the 14th Amendment, obviously he was ineligible to run. Obviously. It'd be like if he wasn't born in the country, it'd be the same thing, right? Remember the whole like amend for Arnold in California when they wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to run for president? The reason why they did that was because of the Constitution. You got to be born in the country in order to be elected president here in the United States, at least. Same thing with Trump. He was guilty of sedition, and that's why they kept trying to push off these cases. When you say, like, why wasn't Jack allowed to prosecute this case? Why wasn't Trump given a speedy trial, as the Constitution is also supposed to guarantee? It's not because Jack didn't have the evidence. It's not because they didn't want to go to trial. It's because Trump and his people continuously were non-compliant with summons for, subpoenas, evidence, and all this stuff. They did everything they could to interfere, to drag it out, to make sure that this case was not heard before the election because the evidence was so strong. As I'm sure Jack will follow up once this guy is done trying to implicitly load this stuff up here with, like, doubt.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
He concludes by saying the qualities of a good prosecutor are as elusive and as impossible to define as those which mark a gentleman. And those who need to be told would not understand it anyway. A sensitiveness to fair play and sportsmanship is perhaps the best protection against the abuse of power. And the citizen's safety lies in the prosecutor who tempers zeal with human kindness, who seeks truth and not victims, who serves the law and not factional purposes, and who approaches his task with humility. Do you agree with that?
Fully.
And do you think during the pendency of your special counsel work that you try to live up to those standards?
I do.
Was there ever a prospect after you were appointed special counsel when you thought maybe you would not bring an indictment against President Trump?
Absolutely. When I took this case, I did not know enough about the facts or the law to have a judgment about whether we should proceed in either case, both cases, or neither case. I used my time when I was appointed to get up to speed on the facts and the law. But if the facts and the law did not justify going forward in this case, I would have been perfectly comfortable in doing that, as I have throughout my career in cases involving political figures when I was public integrity and throughout my
Hunter,
career. So
but that's
I
so
did not
true.
have a preconceived outcome in mind.
It's like being part of a minority group. Imagine like I get what you're saying, where it's like if a black man commits a crime, I think that's why I think Kyle earlier had said, like, imagine if Obama had been the one committing these crimes. Like, obviously, he would have been prosecuted and put in prison. But I feel like the same thing is true with like trans people, right? So it's like, what, like 3 or 4 trans people go commit mass shootings, and Republicans like, oh my God, there's a mass shooter problem in this country. And it's like, everyone's like, yes. It's like, there's a problem with all these kids being killed in schools. And we're like, yes. And then they go, oh, but it's trans people are the problem. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, how are you so sure that suddenly we have a mass shooter problem when like 4 trans people have been mass shooters? But when there's literally thousands of like, cis het shooters, thousands of them that are like white men, all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like, guns are there to defend liberty and freedom. It's like, what happened to like, we recognize what the issue is and it's mass shooters. All of a sudden it's like, but only when they're trans. It's like, so you're only tracking what, 5 or 6 shootings that have happened in the last, like, from 2018? Because then there's been like, if I'm offering charity to their position, it's been like 5 shooters that would arguably be trans. And instead, they want to pretend like the absolute literal like army of white men that commit these shootings. No, they can't be the problem. It must only be the trans people. Like, once it's the minority community, then you can immediately recognize what the problem is. In fact, they were talking about wanting to like look at ways to like remove guns, like trans people being eligible to have guns. And the NRA actually had to step in and like condemn the rhetoric of the GOP, because the NRA all of a sudden recognized that, well, wait a minute, if we actually agree with this, if they actually start banning guns from trans people, they'll start targeting other minority communities. And as soon as we make it okay for them to target minority communities to remove their guns, then blue states are just going to actually pass restrictive gun laws, which the Supreme Court wouldn't be able to strike down as they typically try to do. Because it's like, wait a minute, y'all are already allowing this in other states. We're just applying your same standard that there's obviously a problem with mass shooters to everyone instead of just this tiny minority community. But that's a great observation. Like, you're 100% right there. I love it.
When I took this job.
Was there any point where you and your prosecutors that formed your team debated not bringing charges against the president?
Of course. I mean, that is the process of being a prosecutor, is you are analyzing evidence, you're collecting facts, and you're debating whether it's what the facts mean, the inferences to be drawn from the facts, or debating what the law is, and whether you can prove what you think is happening here or not. And so that was a continual process to decide if, in fact, we could go forward. And that, again, just to be clear, that is a process that I have undergone in my career personally and with prosecutors I supervised.
When was the decision made that you believed you needed to move forward with both indictments, both in Florida and D.C.?
Well, so the decision wasn't made at the same time. To the best of my recollection, in both cases, the final decision was shortly before we saw indictment.
Okay. In June of 2023, you had a meeting with the Attorney General to present a prosecution memo and basically asking for his blessing to bring the indictments. Is that correct?
We did have a meeting, and I think it was around that time. I didn't think about it as his blessing. I was presenting what I intended to do, and he had the ability to countermand that if he wanted to.
Okay. But certainly you couldn't bring an indictment without his authorization.
He could block me from doing that. That's correct.
Okay. And during that June 2023 meeting with the Attorney General, did you guys discuss both indictments, potential indictments, or just the Florida indictment or just the D.C. indictment?
If it was, I don't have a specific recollection of dates. And so you can check me on public records, but I believe by late June.
Yeah, it's like, I don't remember if I don't remember if that was when we discussed it or not, or if we discussed all the other crimes that he committed.
The classified documents case had already been indicted.
Okay.
So again, this is my recollection.
It's funny.
A discussion in late June would have likely
it would have been.
See,
okay. That's how you know that Jack Smith isn't doing this just for rhetoric and that sort of thing. Because if Jack Smith was like that hell-bent against Trump, it'd be like your answer to that question could have been like, well, we were talking about whether we're going to do that indictment or not. But, he committed so many crimes by that point. It's difficult to keep track of all the different indictments he was facing because of all the list of crimes that I would have to enumerate for this. That would be bad faith.
Okay. And the Attorney General in the June meeting, it's been reported that he expressed some reservations about the D.C. case. Is that correct?
I had several meetings with the Attorney General about both cases, and in those meetings, we regularly discussed legal issues, factual issues, things of that nature. Never in those meetings did he tell me I couldn't or shouldn't go forward or should go forward. It was more talking through with another experienced lawyer the legal issues present in the cases, as well as if I was going to go forward, how to best frame those.
Okay. Coming out of the June meeting, it's been reported that he asked you to spend some time with the Solicitor General to review the D.C. Case. Is that correct?
Again, I don't recall specific conversations. What I can share with you is we consulted with the Solicitor General regularly during my time as special counsel. That was a choice I made. We wanted to make sure not only that we got the facts right, but that we got
I don't know why. Whenever I play games, like I randomly jump. You know, I think it's because like some classes you like glide forward a little bit when you jump, and it's just like
you did have a one-on-one
I've
meeting
played
with the
so many
Solicitor
games where
General?
jumping is useful that I just periodically do
I've
it.
met the Solicitor
Maybe
General in
maybe it's my
person.
autism, and I just
My
like pushing
recollection
the
is
jump
most
paddle.
often it would be members of my senior staff speaking with her staff about these legal issues. I did have conversations with her as well, but the majority of that was her staff and my staff speaking about
Okay.
this.
And as it's been reported, the Attorney General at the time was concerned that the proposed indictment or the proposed prosecution plan, may have relied too heavily on statements that the president had made and infringed on his free speech if you were going to prosecute him for it. Is that fair?
As I sit here right now, I can't remember specific conversations. I do remember that we knew that a sort of First Amendment defense would be part of the case. And I think when I mentioned to you earlier about how to frame the case, we wanted to make clear that this was not about trying to interfere with anyone's First Amendment rights, that this was a fraud. And as you know, under Supreme Court precedent, fraud is not protected by the First Amendment. And so in my mind, it was important to make that clear in the indictment. And that's why when we litigated this issue for the district court, we prevailed.
But the president's statements that he believed the election was rife with fraud, those certainly are statements that are protected by the First Amendment, correct?
Absolutely not. If they are made to target a lawful government function and they're made with knowing falsity. No, they're not. That was my point about fraud not being protected by the First Amendment.
I mean, there's a long list of disputed elections. I mean, the election of 1800, 1960, year 2000, where candidates believe they were wronged by because they lost. And there's a long history of candidates speaking out about they believe there's been fraud, there's been other problems with the integrity of the election.
Yeah, but the issue would be the fact that we have like the slate of fake legislatures. Like we know what they were doing. Like we know that he was aware of this. He was part of this. He continuously was meeting with Mike Pence and telling him that he wanted him to he wanted him to join this legislature scheme. I don't remember the lawyer's name that was involved with this, but I know it was like this guy Kenneth. I'd have to go look this stuff up again because it's been so long. But Trump had like a constitutional lawyer like looking into this into ways that they could pull off this scheme. Like I remember there was like 6 people charged on the indictment. It was like Rudy Giuliani, the Kraken lady. It was his this lawyer. It was like Wood something. But I mean, I guess I could always just pull up a browser and look up the guy's name, just so that y'all have the actual information. Let's look it up. They were listed as like conspirators. Let's see. Oh, nice. There's like a Wikipedia on it now. John Eastman. That was the guy. Yeah, Kenneth Chesborough. And it's those two specifically. And it's detailed in the Eastman memos, which claim that the vice president has the constitutional discretion to swap official electors with an alternative slate during the certification process, thus changing the outcome of the electoral college vote and the overall winner of the presidential race. So, like, this is what they're aiming for. So to say, like, oh, but he believed this, it's like, we can demonstrate that that his statement, this is not just a matter of, like, did he believe it or not? This is fraud. So whether he believed his fraud or not doesn't matter. He's still committing fraud. And that's why I brought up belief earlier, because, like, I know in a court of law, generally, if you, like genuinely believe something, then you're allowed to, it's hard to prosecute you for it under the First Amendment. But this is not an issue of belief. This is an issue of fraud. He very clearly was committing fraud here, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But like, there's just so much of this case that like it's unfortunate that I'm sure people have forgotten about. But I mean, this was like a ironclad case, like open shut, easy.
Process. And I think you agree that those types of statements are sort of at the core of the First Amendment rights of a presidential candidate, right?
There is no historical analog for what President Trump did in this case. As we said in the indictment, he was free to say that he thought he won the election. He was even free to say falsely that he won the election. But what he was not free to do was violate federal law and use knowingly false statements about election fraud to target a lawful government function. That he was not allowed to do. And that differentiates this case from any past history.
A lot of these statements, though, people come into the Oval Office. I mean, the president isn't conducting his own due diligence. He is receiving people in his office that are telling him these things, whether it be Rudy Giuliani, whether it be John Eastman, whether it be Jeffrey Clark, whether it be Sidney Powell. And, for the most part, he is just receiving
Sidney
this information.
Powell was the Kraken lady.
His statements are almost just regurgitating what these people have told him. I mean, isn't that the case?
No, and in fact, one of the strengths of our case and why we felt we had such strong proof is our witnesses were not going to be political enemies of the president. They were going to be political allies. We had numerous witnesses who would say, I voted for President Trump. I campaigned for President Trump. I wanted him to win. The Speaker of the House in Arizona, the Speaker of the House in Michigan. We had an elector in Pennsylvania who is a former congressman who was going to be an elector for President Trump, who said that what they were trying to do was an attempt to overthrow the government and illegal. Our case was built on, frankly, Republicans who put their allegiance to the country before the party. And so the president got information from people he trusted on other issues. He rejected it whenever it didn't fit him staying in office. And there was a pattern in our case where anytime any information came in that would mean he could no longer be president, he would reject it. And any theory, no matter how far-fetched, no matter how not based in law, that would indicate that he could, he latched onto that. And we were confident that we had very strong proof of that pattern. He also, I would just add, very consciously did not try to reach out to the sort of people who have the most expertise on these issues. He reached out to people who he thought could back him up.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The president doesn't reach out to anyone. People are brought to him. I mean,
What?
He doesn't, like the people you mentioned that you were going to call a trial. Those aren't some Pennsylvania Republican official. I mean, that's not somebody who was in the Oval Office communicating with the president, right?
Well, with respect to the Arizona Speaker of the House, that is someone the president reached out to. He also reached out to governors. He reached out to the governor of Arizona. He reached out, again, Republicans, his allies.
The governor of Georgia?
Our case was a case in which the president was preying on the party allegiance of people who supported him. And these are, again, the record is rife with examples of him reaching out to those people, inviting them to the White House. And another example, sir, is the folks from Michigan. He invited them to the White House. They told him, you lost because you underperformed with educated females. They told him that when he brought them there. And again, our case was filled with examples of that.
Were you planning on calling John Eastman as a witness?
I do not believe we would have, but we would have welcomed if the defense called him.
Okay. It's tricky, though, for the defense to call him because the people like Eastman and Clark and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, I mean, they were shrouded by the special counsel as co-conspirators 1 through 6, and so they all feared that they were going to be prosecuted if they said anything. Isn't that fair?
Well, they were co-conspirators. I can't get into what was in their mind or not. I can tell you some of the co-conspirators met with us in proffers and did interviews with us, and so the idea that someone like Rudy Giuliani, who sat with a proffer for us, he was available as a witness, and we would have welcomed President Trump calling him as a witness. Boris Epstein sat for an interview with us. We would have welcomed calling him as a witness. Kenneth Chesborough would have welcomed it.
Why didn't you charge any of those folks?
I'm sorry?
Why didn't you charge any of those co-conspirators?
As we stated in the final report, we analyzed the evidence against different co-conspirators. My staff determined that we did have evidence to charge people at a certain point in time. I had not made final determinations about that at the time that President Trump won re-election, meaning that our office was going to be closed down.
Right. You've had a 30-year career as a prosecutor. You prosecuted gang members, right?
Yes.
You prosecuted organized crime members, right?
Not as much.
But surely one of the fundamental principles of prosecutorial work is you work from the bottom up, and you try to get as many fact witnesses to work with you. And a lot of times those fact witnesses have criminal liability, and a lot of times those lower fact witnesses, the smaller fish, are almost always they're either prosecuted or they are given an immunity because they fear they're going to be prosecuted. But here you didn't. You kept laser focused only on President Trump.
2 points. One, as I said, we were considering prosecutions of these people, and I think I don't want to say what the ultimate conclusion would have been, but that was something that was being considered. The second thing, I think, to understand contextually is this was a case where the issue was how to present it in a concise way. We had so many witnesses, again, so many witnesses who were allies of President Trump available to us to testify. This was not a case where we needed more witnesses. It was a case where we needed to be able to present the case in a streamlined way because there was so much evidence.
In this book by the Washington Post reporters on page 310, you're familiar with this book. Have you read it? It's called Injustice by Lenig and Davis.
No, I have not read it.
Are you familiar with it?
I have not seen it. I mean, I saw that it came out in the news, but I have not read
Okay.
it.
Did you cooperate with the book? Did you talk to Carol Lenig, Graham?
They reached out to my counsel. I did not speak to them.
And did you ever speak with them during your tenure at the Justice Department?
No.
Anyway, they report, and these are reporters. They get some things wrong. They called Chairman Jordan the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. They said Speaker McCarthy voted in favor of the second impeachment, and I can confirm that it's just laughably inaccurate. And so reporters get things wrong. And so if that's the case, please flag it. But in the book on 310, the reporters write, as each new tranche of information about fake electors came in, members of Smith's team intermittently raised the idea of opening separate case files on Giuliani, Eastman, and others. Each time, however, Smith dismissed the idea. He said he did not want the office getting bogged down and potentially prosecuting those around Trump. Is that?
I don't think that's accurate. I did make the decision that the first case we brought was going to be Donald Trump, and I was aware that there was evidence against other people, but I don't think that characterization is accurate.
Okay. Now, people with different views than you can say the special counsel's office is only interested in prosecuting President Trump because an election's coming up and he's going to be the Republican nominee, and the special counsel works for a Democratic president. The special counsel works for a Democratic attorney general, and so the special
Just
counsel's laser focus on
conspiracy.
President Trump is simply to prevent him from either being the party's nominee or being a successful party's nominee, or at the very least keeping him off the campaign trail. How do you respond to that?
All of that is false, and I'll say a few things. The first is the evidence here made clear that President Trump was, by a large measure, the most culpable and most responsible person in this conspiracy. These crimes were committed for his benefit. The attack that happened at the Capitol, as part of this case, does not happen without him. The other co-conspirators were doing this for his benefit. So in terms of why we would pursue a case against him, I entirely disagree with any characterization that our work was in any way meant to hamper him in the presidential election. I would never take orders from a political leader to hamper another person in an
that
election.
was a
That's
serious
not who I am,
glitch,
and I think
but,
people who know me and my
I think it's
experience over 30
also
years,
just my rig and
would find
everything
that
else. I need to upgrade stuff.
So did
which
you develop evidence
I'll
that
do
President
over
Trump
time.
was responsible for the violence at the Capitol on January 6th?
So our view of the evidence was that he caused it and that he exploited it and that it was foreseeable to him.
But you don't have any evidence that he instructed people to crash the Capitol, do you?
As I said, our evidence is that he, in the weeks leading up to January 6th, created a level of distrust. He used that level of distrust to get people to believe fraud claims that weren't true. He made false statements to state legislatures, to his supporters, in all sorts of contexts, and was aware in the days leading up to January 6th that his supporters were angry when he invited them, and then he directed them to the Capitol. Once they were at the Capitol and once the attack on the Capitol happened, he refused to stop it. He instead issued a tweet that, without question in my mind, endangered the life of his own vice president. When the violence was going on,
While
he
I'm
had to
waiting,
be pushed repeatedly by his staff
go
members to
ahead.
do anything to quell
Tell me
it.
the report.
And then even afterwards, he directed
That work
co-conspirators
dance is so funny.
to make calls to members of Congress, people who were his political allies, to further delay the proceedings.
Did you sought gag orders in both the Florida case and the DC case? Is that correct?
We sought an order in the DC case under
talk,
Rule,
talk.
I think it's 57.2, and we did that because Donald Trump was making statements that were endangering witnesses, intimidating witnesses, endangering members of my staff, endangering court staff. As you might remember, in the right around when the indictment was released, he issued a tweet saying, "If you come after me, I'll come after you." He called, in a tweet, he called General Mark Milley a traitor and mentioned that what he'd done in olden times, people would be put to death. As a result of the things he was saying, the judge in this case was received vile death threats. And with respect to the DC, both the district court and the Court of Appeals, a panel of judges, found that his actions were in fact causing what we said they caused. They were causing witnesses to be intimidated and endangering people. And
Right.
I believe it was.
But he had gag orders in other cases, and they just kept doing this. They continuously would be like, "Oh yeah, he's violating the gag order. People are being endangered, but oh, there's nothing we can really do about it." Like over and over. he continuously was like shit talking the other judges that were trying other cases that he was involved in. Like, this guy has been given so much leeway, and it's like the law just doesn't matter where he's concerned. Like, it's like people are just either afraid to actually take action against him. They're afraid to like make him shut up by being like, well, we told you not to violate this. You keep violating these gag orders, so now you're going to have to wait in jail for this like case to be heard. Like, you know, and it's so true too. Like, if this is a random person, especially if they were like of a minority community, they like easily be like, oh, well, you violated the gag order, time to go to jail or whatever. Like, a lot of the jokes, I don't know if you all remember, there was a movie that came out in the 90s called My Cousin Vinny. And like part of the entire comedy of that movie was like Vinny didn't know what to say in court. So he would like end up saying something that pissed the judge off, and the judge would be like, okay, fine, off to jail. And this happened to him like twice in there. Whereas Trump is like, the judge is saying, you know, if you violate this gag order, I'm going to have to take action against you. And I want to say he ended up violating the gag order something like 3 or 4 different times, like just blatantly violating it, and like incentivizing people to violence, like against those people that he didn't like, or against like witnesses and stuff like that. And it's witness tampering, it's intimidation, like the amount of crimes that he committed just in doing that were never enforced is just astounding. And like, I don't understand why conservatives think that whenever someone says like, oh, well, so-and-so broke the law, right? Oh, well, this guy, you know, he was using marijuana. He broke the law. It's like, well, why should we give a fuck about the law? Apparently, y'all don't care about it. And y'all are saying that the most powerful person in the country, the president, of whose office, obviously, you voted for, and you would say like, well, on principle, like, ethically, this guy seems like he should be like someone that you'd want to emulate in society because you put him in charge of everything. And this guy, you know, I'm not going to the Biden thing. Oh, he's got the morals of an alley cat. Like, shut up, Biden. What I would say is this guy is so deficient in virtue and is such an obvious criminal that not prosecuting him weakens our entire system of law. Like, why would people take the law serious? Like, be like, oh no, you shouldn't violate the law. What? Why? One of the most public people on television that has like one of the largest platforms is continuously breaking the law and is just unaccountable for it. So why should any of us care about the law? It seems like just outrageous hypocrisy that we're going to prosecute people for like pettier crimes when this man commits all these felonies, is prosecuted, found guilty, but then they're just like, no, you're good. You can just go. You don't have to be held accountable. There's no penalty whatsoever. Just ridiculous.
Was the Court of Appeals also
And
found
I agree,
that,
Hannah,
in
it's
addition
so
to intimidating
frustrating,
or chilling
like
witnesses who
incredibly
existed,
frustrating.
it would chill witnesses who had not yet come forward because they'd afraid that they would be next. So yes, we did file that, and I make no apologies for that.
I mean, which witnesses do you think he would have intimidated? I mean, are there any specific witnesses that you identify for the court?
We did a filing. I don't recall the specifics in that filing right now, but as I said, one of the issues from my perspective was not only the witnesses who he had specifically called out and caused threats to be issued, this phenomena that was found by both courts, it was the result of that.
This phenomena to be found by the courts, also known as stochastic terrorism.
That is that a rational witness who maybe had not come forward would be completely afraid to because they would see that they would be next. And I think both courts agreed with that.
Well, I mean, the Circuit Court of Appeals ultimately slimmed down the gag order, isn't that correct?
It did, yes.
And what was the difference between the gag order you proposed and Judge Chutkan agreed to and the final gag order that the D.C. Circuit approved?
Okay, I'm going to go off my recollection. I know one of the differences was him making threatening statements towards me personally was no longer. no longer was allowed. I think in the district court in our application, we thought that shouldn't be allowed. I will share with you that I told my staff that it was much more important to me that he not be able to issue threats to support staff and my staff than me. And so the Court of Appeals did narrow it in that way. And as I'm sitting here now, I'm not debating you that they narrowed it. I just can't remember the specific details.
Okay.
But the phenomenon, they concurred that the phenomenon I'm describing to you today was real. And it had real world consequences.
18 United States Code 1512 here deals with tampering with witnesses. Did you identify any violations of 18 U.S.C. 1512?
We did not bring any charges.
And did you allege that he violated any terms of his release?
We did not.
It's just like how many crimes can one person commit and not be
Turn to
held accountable?
the member toll records topic. What's the difference between a subpoena for toll records and a 2703D order?
Well, a subpoena for toll records is non-content. Doesn't have any content. Doesn't have like the header of say an email, things of that nature. Whereas I think if I'm correct in the terminology, I think a 2703D would be regarding emails and could have information like that.
Could have content?
Well, at least again, this is my recollection. I haven't looked at this issue in some time, but I think it means it's not content, but it could at least have say the header like of the message, like not the content of the message, but it might not include the header.
Did you use any 2703D orders on members of Congress or senators or their staff?
I do not recall that at this time.
Did you use any pen registers? Maybe just walk us through what a pen register is and trap and trace.
Yeah, my understanding or my recollection is a pen register or trap and trace is a thing where you're watching who someone's calling going forward. Like, so, if there was a trap and trace on my phone, it would see going forward from today who I called. And a pen register, I'm mixing up the terminology, but one is like calls in and the other one's calls out.
Okay. And did you use any of those techniques on members of Congress, senators, or their staff?
I don't recall anything like that.
Okay. And when you say you don't recall, you think the answer is no, but you're not able to give a definitive answer?
Yeah, I have nothing in my memory that tells me that we did anything like that.
Okay. And so with the toll record, so as it relates to members and their staff and senators, it's just the toll records as far as you remember?
That's my recollection.
Okay. And
well, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Before I was special counsel, the people who were working on one of the investigations did get a search warrant for the cell phone of one Congressman
Perry. Yes, we are very familiar with that. With the toll record subpoena, maybe just walk us through like what you get. You get the incoming, the telephone numbers that call a particular cell phone, right?
That's correct.
And you get the time that the call occurred.
Yes.
And you get the length of time of the call.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And you also get the list of numbers that the outgoing. You get the incoming and the outgoing, right?
That's correct.
And is there any other information that the toll record subpoenas provide?
That is the what I understand is the major thing you're seeking to get with the toll records.
Okay. And when you get one of these subpoenas, you just send it to the carrier, correct? It doesn't involve a judge.
The subpoena? Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Doesn't require a judge.
The only time a judge gets involved is if you're seeking a non-disclosure order. Is that right?
If it's a subpoena for toll records, that's correct.
Okay. And do you always seek is it the practice of your team to always seek the NDO?
They killed my
Well,
little
in this
spirit
particular
bird.
case, there was a
Don't worry.
grave risk of
We're going to
obstruction of
kill them
justice,
right back.
given the obstructive conduct of President Trump as is set forth, for example, in the indictment in Florida. President Trump tried to obstruct that case in multiple ways. As I mentioned earlier, in the litigation we had regarding 57.2, we had numerous instances of him attempting to, in our view, intimidate witnesses or keep them from cooperating. And so given that reality, we did seek non-disclosure orders for the toll record subpoenas you're talking about.
Okay. And ordinarily you just go to, how do you pick your judge for that when you're seeking the NDOs? Some of them were signed by the chief judge, and then others were signed by Magistrate Judge David Baker, at least as it relates to the members. How do you pick the judge? Or do they pick it for you?
I don't know that we picked the judge. I have to say, in my role in this, I wouldn't have known that. I don't know that even a prosecutor can pick the judge, but I don't know what local practice in Washington D.C. would be on that.
But sometimes I think Boasberg signed the NDOs for the senators, and then as it related to Speaker McCarthy and some of our members from the Judiciary Committee, it was Magistrate Judge David Baker. And so you don't have any idea why that.
Oh, I finally got
practice in my
Rampage.
experience as a prosecutor, certainly when I was a prosecutor in Brooklyn, is there'll be a duty judge or a duty magistrate.
such a fun
And so
ability.
whoever has duty that day is who you go to.
Okay.
I just want to be clear in this case, I don't have a recollection if that's how it works in D.C., but it may well have been that way.
Okay. And these NDO orders, at least the ones we've seen, they're all the same. Is that a fair? Is that a fair statement?
Let's move some
I think they're
stuff
usually very
around.
similar, yes.
Okay.
News bars.
And you submit a proposed order, correct, for the judge to sign?
That's correct.
And part of the language in this states that the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution, destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. Is that something you remember?
Yes, those are the in the law, and the numbers escaping me right now, but in the law that sets forth the reasons why you could get a
basically
non-disclosure, I believe those
can
are
randomly
the
proc,
different
but
prongs,
like
if you
that,
will, of that
when I
section.
have enough
As it relates
rage,
to members of Congress and senators, and
it's like
their status
you
as
like
well.
mollywop them.
I mean, that presents concern.
like
We don't
this.
have an opportunity to
that
like
like you do an entire like attack sequence
that
animation.
Well,
it's like your
the,
character goes on a
the
rampage
nature,
and just
and
chops
I should
them
also
up.
be clear that when you're getting an NDO, say for toll records,
It feels
it's
very
not based on an
orc
allegation that
appropriate, you know?
necessarily the person who has the phone number is personally
Just,
going
like,
to obstruct the investigation. It's that if this gets
badass,
out, people
strong,
could
and
obstruct
just,
the
like,
investigation. So I want to make that clear.
beat their asses.
Second point would be, you are correct in that
It's really
inherent in
fun in
getting an
dungeons.
NDO is
'Cause, like,
that
you can-
at various
especially
times,
when you start procking
people
it
might
over and
have
over and over.
arguments about why to quash a subpoena won't be able to make those arguments. In our investigation, this came up with Twitter. We wanted to get records from Twitter regarding President Trump. Twitter, and we applied for an NDO from the judge. Twitter refused to provide the records unless they could tell President Trump about that. And so we had litigation with this in the district court. The district court agreed that there are situations, and there it was that Twitter argued that President Trump should be able to assert executive privilege over the records we want. And as a result of that litigation, the district court found that it was proper of us, given the level of obstruction in this case, to get that NDO. That decision by the district court was upheld by the Court of Appeals. And then that decision by the Court of Appeals, Twitter, my recollection is Twitter sought to get the Supreme Court to overrule that, and the Supreme Court refused to. And so I tell you all that to say,
And then you find them, right?
well, actually, that's before. They refused to comply even after she ruled, and she set a schedule of fines, and so part of the appeal was...
You sought the fines, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
But the point of telling you that was that inherent in an NDO is it may be that certain
I wonder
arguments
why
about why a
Twitter
subpoena
was
should be
refusing
quashed,
to cooperate,
can't be made. So that,
you know?
that happens, and I think
It's almost-
there's a parallel in those situations.
It's almost like there's a certain billionaire shithead that bought Twitter arguably to also protect Trump, besides just to enrich himself. And because he couldn't stand people being able to post stuff on the site without being able to personally moderate things, you know, censoring speech, that type of thing, you know? The type of thing that conservatives absolutely love to do to those that they disagree with and are absolutely the biggest crybabies in the world when something like that happens to them. Because if they didn't have hypocrisy, if there's like no, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards.
When it comes to members of Congress, though, there are speech or debate protections, which you totally sidestep. I mean, the toll records provide enormous, valuable information because it shows who a member of Congress, who a senator is taking calls from, and who they're calling. And if you map it up against the Senate or the House
It's
calendar,
corruption all the way down.
You can see what the inputs are to their legislative decision making, which is at the core of speech or debate. Do you agree with it?
My office and I personally take the protections of the speech or debate clause seriously. I think they're part of our Constitution. They're an important part of separation of powers. I think our respect for the speech or debate clause is evidenced by the litigation we engaged in this office. We conducted litigation with Congressman Perry and also Vice President Pence, taking that very seriously. And I would just also add that my office had folks who were really the department experts on speech or debate. And when we sought these subpoenas, we got approval from Public Integrity, who are the sort of keepers of that issue, and they concurred in us getting these subpoenas.
They did, and we saw some of that email traffic, and I would respectfully disagree with their
Gonna kill the dragon.
their view of the speech or debate law, as you might imagine.
Time to die, Elf.
When you saw these non-disclosure orders, the judge didn't know it was a member of Congress. Is that correct?
I don't think we identified that because I don't think that was department policy at the time.
And you had some litigation substantial litigation with Congressman Perry over the seizure of his phone, but you didn't have any litigation with us over the seizure of members of the Judiciary Committee's phones because we never knew about it.
That's correct.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. I think you said regarding the seizure of any senators' phones?
Representative Perry had his phone seized.
Yes, but are you suggesting that there's a seizure of a senator's phone?
No.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
The only seizure I'm aware of is Congressman Perry. Do you know of any other seizures?
That's the one I recall.
Okay, so no other members of Congress, no other senator had their phone seized?
I don't know.
Did you seek search warrants for the content of any, of the telephone calls or
It's so
the content
funny.
relies mostly
Like,
to text
oh,
messages?
we're about to
Did you
just
seek
go
a search
through,
warrant
like-
for the content of any text messages from members?
I
From
get that the
members,
video
I
is
don't recall.
8 hours,
Correct.
but this is just
But by not
seems
telling
like
the members,
they're
by
just
going
going
through
through
this NDO process,
this
I mean, they didn't have an
once
opportunity to
again.
litigate the speech or debate.
Well, once again, just trying to Oh, well, they should have been able to debate this. They should have been able to argue this. We should have been able to hamper you even more. Like, you unethically subpoenaed their phones. Like, it just seems ridiculous, like, all the way down, considering the staggering amount of fraud that was being engaged in, the power of the people that were being involved in it, and them getting upset now over the idea of like, oh, I can't believe you subpoenaed a congressman's phone. Like, how dare you actually subpoena something and go through the courts and do it, as opposed to as opposed to what? Like, let's compare like what Trump and his people are doing right now, where they're saying like, oh, they should lock up Democrats. Whenever Trump was, I think Trump even suggested that they should be killed, right? When they were coming out saying that, what was it recently? They were condemning Trump, and and Trump was trying to say that they were all like traitors in condemning the actions of his administration. Like, it's such a wild double standard that like Trump can be like, oh, well, they should like not only be held accountable, but like they should be like executed. But then on the other side, it's like, oh, well, we subpoenaed their telephone. And it's like, how dare you do this to them? That's so terrible. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to attempt to carry out the law whatsoever. It's like, what is this? So wild, like how much their standards swing. Like, oh, if it's Trump, he should be able to pontificate about like having senators and stuff executed. But if it's the other side doing an investigation, you shouldn't even be allowed to subpoena their phone. Like, come on. If any one of us engaged in crimes against the state like that, and we were being accused of being involved in this type of plot to overthrow the government, we would be in jail. Like, no doubt. To pretend that like, oh, well, a senator or whatever ought to have a bunch of extra protections about their phone being subpoenaed. Why? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's like, this is government to government, right? If the subpoena system is legal and there's nothing wrong with subpoenaing things, then we should be able to subpoena representatives, the president, whoever. If they committed a crime and they're being, put to deposition or whatever, they're gathering evidence, they should be able to subpoena whatever they need in order to make the investigation happen. That's just as simple as it is.
Concerns.
That's correct.
And that's unfair in our view.
I understand your position, and as I said before, we respect the speech or debate clause. I'm aware of no case in the Supreme Court or the D.C. Circuit that says that getting non-content poll records from a third party violates the speech or debate clause, particularly where, and I think an important point here is these records were not sought to use against members of Congress who were targets. The investigation we were conducting was of President Trump and his co-conspirators, who were all obviously not members of Congress, but also private, not even members of the White House.
I mean, the House and DOJ has a big disagreement on this. I mean, the William Jefferson case, you familiar with the Rayburn House Office Building case?
I am.
Okay. And so when issuing grand jury subpoenas for poll records, do you consider yourself bound by that opinion?
Yes, but I would say that opinion does not deal. That is the case where there was a search warrant of a congressman's office. That congressman was a target of the investigation. Right. The search warrant wasn't seeking non-content toll records. It was seeking the actual records, legislative material of the congressman to be used against that congressman.
Right. But, I mean, the court in the Rayburn case concluded that there is a documentary non-disclosure privilege, not just a prohibition on the evidentiary use of that material against members.
I'm not debating the Rayburn case exists. What I'm saying is in the Supreme Court or the D.C. Circuit, there is no case that says non-content. Rayburn dealt with content. Non-content records, not secured from a member, but secured from a third party, are subject to the speech or debate clause. And if I may, the correspondence we talked about,
when this
that
guy,
reading, which was the reading
Jack
of
Smith
my
has like so
staff who are
much
very familiar with
patience
this,
for
is
dealing with
consistent
us.
with the department's position on those issues, and public integrity, which was sort of the keeper of this issue, concurred in our getting these opinions.
We're making exhibits. We have number 6.
Yes.
And this is some back and forth. Exhibit 6 is going to be an email between your office and public integrity regarding the Senate, the toll records for the senators.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The relevant, these documents are helpfully not based.
Yeah. If you want to show me yours, I can look for it here. Okay. This one.
Shooting some proto-drakes.
So the department has, if you're going to, has requirements for all prosecutors that, if you're going to bring a tax prosecution, you have to consult with the tax division, right?
Correct.
If you're going to bring a national security related case for classified documents, classified documents, you need the national security division to okay that, right?
Correct.
And as it relates to, sensitive political matters, the Attorney General has to okay, and there's been a series of memos both from Attorney General Barr and Garland and so forth, correct?
Sensitive political matters, I'm not sure if that's the terminology. There's an election year sensitivities
Yeah.
memo, and there's also regulations, specific regulations for specific situations.
Like,
Right.
can
And
you
FBI calls it a
imagine
sensitive
just
investigative
trying
matter.
to like sit through this and just listen to it while they're like fucking fumbling with papers and stuff like that? Like this would be so boring on its own. And that's why I was like, I really need to do like games and stuff in the background or whatever so that we can watch something else while we talk about this, because otherwise, like, it's brutal. Like, this is important stuff. But you can clearly see the spin that they're going with and all the rhetoric that they're trying to use to, like, cast doubt on Smith's case. Like, it's just so obvious. Like, Trump's allies are so pathetic in this regard. Like, it's so obvious what they're doing with it. Instead of just asking him for the evidence, instead of letting him go through it, there's all this preamble and, well, we're suspicious because of whatever. We're suspicious about this. What about this other case that's might not be related? What about this case? Have you ever heard about that? Like, everything they can do to cast doubt on this, where it's like, clearly he knows what he's talking about. Clearly he knows what he was doing. Can, like, we just get the evidence from him? Why do you got to keep asking him about, like, these other legal cases, etc.? Because you're trying to cast doubt on how ethical it was for them to get the subpoena or whatever else. Like, no one cares about that. Right? If we got the subpoena, we have the information, like, let's look at the information. We don't need to debate on whether, you find it personally offensive that some congressman's phone was subpoenaed. And yeah, I agree. It is important. And, like, I still want to hear, like, what comes out of this, because this was, the case that was built against Trump, where I'm almost certain he would have gone to prison over this. So they're doing their best to discredit it. And I don't think it's coincidental that they waited this long to release the deposition. And then right afterward, it's like, oh, there's the attack in Venezuela. And all of a sudden, this just gets pushed out of the news entirely.
They need to get they can't do anything without getting the director of the FBI to okay, getting search warrants against members of Congress and so forth. Correct?
I'm not as familiar with the FBI regulations as the DOJ regulations.
But is public integrity, before you seek member toll records, is the hoop you have to jump through public integrity?
So it was for my office because I directed my staff to consult them anytime we were going to do that. I understand that was more of a practice and tradition.
Mm-hmm.
It's since become a specific requirement after these toll records were issued, but it was my policy to do that, and it was, again, consistent with my policy of wanting to sort of leverage the expertise in the department. So we did that.
Is this back and forth, and your staff had a memo that it, I think, basically put an email, and then
Channel
public
the
integrity
magic
responds with
power.
this message. Is that
Reach all
essentially
the
the extent of the back and
towers.
forth with public integrity?
I don't know that this is the extent of it. I don't. There's a line here that says, "As you are aware." That makes me think that there was also a telephone conversation, but I don't. Just to be clear, I don't have a specific recollection of that. I told my staff that in this situation, if we're going to seek these toll records, you need to consult with public integrity. As you can see from the email chain, I wasn't on that email chain.
Were there any other boxes you had to check? Did you have to tell the Attorney General or the DAG to get these toll records, or was it just you and public integrity?
My direction was to tell for our staff to go to public integrity. It may well have been that this is the sort of thing either I would have briefed the Attorney General on, or J.P. Cooney, who was our contact with the leadership of the department, may have told them about. But the thing that I was most concerned about was making sure public integrity, who was sort of the experts on this issue, that they were consulted.
I mean, this isn't. If you look at the email, it's not that fulsome, right? It's not a complete analysis of the constitutionality or even the propriety of the call record subpoenas under the speech or debate clause. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, certainly there could be more analysis, but again, I don't know if there was an additional conversation that it seemed. I'm drawing an inference. I don't recall this, but this seems to me to indicate there may have been an additional conversation.
So the email, from our perspective, it seems to be a cursory litigation risk assessment. It's not, it doesn't raise the issues that we would raise if we were litigating the speech or debate matter. Because, I mean, our position is that the toll record subpoenas do violate speech or debate. I mean, if you get a list of all the people calling members of the Judiciary Committee before a floor vote, that is pretty core protected material. This back and forth with public integrity doesn't address very much. Is that fair?
Well, again, I don't know if there were additional conversation or conversations. I also don't know, frankly, if this is the only email on this issue. So I don't think I would call it cursory.
Started
I think
queuing for some dungeons and stuff, so we can like do some constant fighting
including
for a little bit.
the people on this email chain, as well as
and fight a little bit tougher
my senior counselor,
content.
Ray Helser, who is
What
really
you
the
know.
department's expert
It's
on
time
these issues.
walking.
But these are people
It's
with
still gonna be,
expertise in
like,
this area.
pretty
that discuss
easy.
with one
But
another.
if you believe
But
what the Washington Post
it can
reporters wrote
kill
in their
you
book,
if
they
people aren't
say,
paying
according to
attention.
their sources, that you were legendary for being dialed into every last detail of these cases. That you were, they stopped short of calling you a micromanager, but they say that you looked at witness outlines 2 days before witness interviews. Is that fair?
I did that without lens of interviews, yes.
And you had at points you had daily meetings with teams, and you wanted to know every last detail of your case. Is that fair?
I try to be a responsible supervisor, yes.
But when it comes to taking the members of Congress phone records, you weren't as plugged into that. Is that fair?
No, I don't think that's fair. I spoke with my staff about this. I ultimately approved it.
Right.
I had faith in the expertise of my staff. They discussed it with me. I felt there was a basis for it. I felt it was relevant and material to the investigation. And I also felt comfortable because I knew that my view about that would be tested by an analysis of public integrity.
Look at the last sentence. No likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, and the litigation risk would be minimal. Not to mention, they're not going to net. So the assessment is, as Steve described, pretty cursory. We're not going to charge anyone. We're not going to get sued. They're not going to know. Who cares about speech or debate? That's what the assessment looks like to me. Your response?
Chairman, I would disagree with that characterization of it.
Well, that's what the sentence says. We're not going to charge these people. I doubt they take us to court. It'd be hard for them to take us to court because they're not going to know for years that we did this. Move ahead. And you said fine.
I approved these subpoenas, yes.
Okay.
And our view is this is inconsistent with the D.C. Circuit case law, which establishes that the speech or debate protections includes a non-disclosure privilege, period. It's not just a privilege against using that material against the members. It's also a privilege against taking that information and using it against a third party. If you're going to prosecute Jeff Clark with Scott Perry's phone records, we believe that the D.C. Circuit holds you can't do that. And this back and forth with public integrity doesn't factor that in. That's concerning to us. Did you have any discussions with the Office of Legal Counsel or the Solicitor General's office? Were there any other components in the Justice Department that analyzed this?
On this discrete issue, I don't have any recollection of those entities being involved in that discussion.
Okay. And there's a statute regarding Senate phone records. Are you familiar with 2 United States Code 6628?
Yes.
And did you analyze or factor in that statute before you issued the subpoenas for the senator poll records?
As I sit here today, I don't recall specifically discussing that statute. I will say that my reading of that statute as it existed at that time is that was a statute directed at providers. It actually envisions that a provider might actually get an NDO application.
What a bunch of crybabies. And besides, even if it did violate something, which it doesn't, like they'd still have to go to court because, like, oh, in our opinion, it would violate this. Like, okay, what's the facts of it? Like, provide the make the argument that it actually does violate it. Because, like, at this point, and this is just what my opinion is right now, kind of like with the American legal system, like, I'm nonplussed, right? I'm not impressed because we've set this precedent with the president now that it seems like the law doesn't really, like, matter to these people, right? And, like, this is what I found curious about this is, like, they don't acknowledge that undermining our system like this, the danger that poses is that it very much undermines the integrity of our courts. I can't be the only person that feels like, if Trump gets away with all these crimes and he's never prosecuted, nothing ever happens to him, then whenever these people are like, oh, but, what if there was, some case law that we could argue that you should have subpoenaed these people should have known that you were going to subpoena their records. I just shrug. Like, who cares? Like, the crimes that you are letting this man get away with, the crimes that you are covering up are so extreme that it seems like a joke that you would even care about this at all. That's my opinion. That, like, that's the risk to the system itself, is because I feel like the average person is just going to look at this and be like, who gives a crap whether, you could make the argument that, you know, oh, well, you should have let them know. Like, okay, well, make the argument, because that didn't go to trial now, did it? You know, and just start with their exact same type of argument that they opened with. Like, well, that wasn't prosecuted.
And the provider who has the best information about whose phone line is whose, that they're best situated to make these judgments.
Okay, so that was my next question, is like, whose responsibility it is to flag that there's a statute, a law, that bars NDOs with regards to certain Senate phone numbers? Whose responsibility? Is that the special counsel's office? Is that the carrier? Is that the judge? Does the judge have to sort of figure this out? The magistrate judge? Certainly the magistrate judge doesn't have to figure it out like all on his own, does he?
Well, that statute, as I said, my reading of that statute, the language of that statute as it existed at that time, is that it's the job of the carrier. And to me, that makes sense, because they're the ones who have the best and most accurate information about whose phone lines are whose. They actually have that information.
Okay. But the package of materials that you send off to the magistrate judge or the chief judge, whoever the duty judge is, as you mentioned, you don't identify that it's a Senate phone number or a member of Congress in those applications. So there'd be no way for the judge to know that you know there's these additional considerations. Is that fair?
I think that is fair. I think the department guidance on that issue has changed since these events we're talking about. And so now, if one were to do that, you would notify the judge.
Okay, and my time's up, so unfortunately I have to leave it there.
Yeah, cry more.
Off the record.
Oh, this is going to be painful. We might actually all die here. That was really stupid of them to do that. Oh no, I'm going to be sacrificed. It's just that this boss has a move that like hits really hard, and if you're not careful, it can like easily kill the tank. But I mean, they did a good job. So yeah, now we're at a big off the record section. I wonder what they're talking about off the record, you know? I hope Jack is like, you're a son of a bitch. Like, I just feel like, you know, clearly these Republicans are just giant fucking crybabies. Like, holy shit. Let's move forward just a little bit so we can get back to it.
As a war crimes prosecutor at a European Union war crimes tribunal in The Hague, the Netherlands, and I was there for a little over 4 years before I became special counsel.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you just speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the people in the back have trouble hearing you.
Sorry about that.
And can you describe the types of cases out of all these years of experience? Just give us a broad overview of the seriousness of the cases that you brought in your career.
I've worked on all sorts of cases. Early in my career, I was a member of the offices in Manhattan, the domestic violence unit, and so I did a number of cases of people who are abusing domestic violence victims. Those are some of the most memorable cases in my career. I worked on gang cases, RICO gang cases, in the Eastern District of New York. I worked on the Admiral Louima case, which was a assault of a Haitian immigrant by police officers. I did an international murder for hire case, other sorts of violent crime cases. I was one of the night of 9/11. I was part of the command center, and in the weeks afterwards, I was involved in responding to what happened on 9/11. After the Eastern District of New York, when I was overseas, I worked on war crimes cases that were in all sorts of different jurisdictions and all sorts of challenging investigative situations. And political corruption cases, obviously, when I was in public integrity and also in Nashville.
So taking all these cases you described, I heard cases about, gangs in New York. It sounds like there were war crimes cases or domestic violence cases you just described. Taking all that experience, when you finished your investigation in the special counsel's office, you believed that you had sufficient evidence in this case to prove Donald Trump committed those crimes after the 2020 election?
I did.
And you believe that you had enough evidence to get a conviction with Donald Trump taking or willfully taking the classified documents after he left office in 2020 and returned to Florida in 2021?
Perfect.
That's correct.
So we've heard a word a lot from this administration, from the majority Republicans, and that word is transparency. And yet, Mr. Smith, we're in a closed-door deposition today, meaning that members of the public and even congressional members and staff who are not part of the Judiciary Committee are not permitted to attend this proceeding. Did you offer to testify publicly before this committee?
Yes.
How did you offer? I guess, how did you make the offer to testify publicly to this committee?
I think it was through my counsel.
Did you send a letter to the committee? Did your counsel send a letter to the committee offering to publicly testify?
I think that's right.
We'll insert that letter into the record just for you. Background. And this will be Exhibit 7. It'll be an October 23rd, 2025 letter signed by Mr. Lenny Brewer and Mr. Peter Koski. It's addressed to Chairman Jordan and Chairman Grassley regarding Mr. Smith's public offer to testify publicly. Are you familiar with this letter, Mr. Smith?
Gotta sell some stuff.
Yes.
Can you tell us why you felt it was important to make a request for a public hearing?
I'm proud of the work that we did at the special counsel's office. I'm particularly proud of the people I work with, the career public servants I work with, who've been vilified by President Trump and people who work for him, and I think someone needs to speak up for them.
Did you want to testify publicly because you had something to hide about your investigation?
No.
Did you want to testify publicly to rebut some of these accusations from the president that you just mentioned about your investigation?
Yes, that's what I meant. Accusations not just against me, but against career prosecutors, career FBI agents who have served our country and who've been vilified wrongly. I think it's really important to correct the record on that.
Were you granted the request to testify publicly before this committee? The answer's probably obvious as we sit in this room. Were you granted that request?
No.
Were you given any reasons, provided any reasons why you were not allowed to testify publicly and directly to the American people?
I don't recall that.
Are you aware that even President Trump vouches you to testify publicly before our committee?
I heard that.
Yeah, just to make it clear for the record, Mr. Trump said, and this is a quote, "I'd rather see him," as in Jack Smith, "testify publicly because there's no way he can answer the questions." So let's turn to a few of those questions. Do you recall the October 14th, 2025 letter to you from Chairman Jordan requesting a transcribed interview?
I know he sent a letter asking for me to be interviewed, yes.
We'll enter that into the record and make it exhibit 8.
Thank you.
And I'll give you a second just to look through it as we pass it out. So in this October letter to you requesting a transcribed interview, the chairman characterized your investigation as, quote, politically motivated prosecutions of Donald J. Trump, end quote, and said you conducted a, quote, unnecessary and abusive raid of the residence, end quote, of Donald Trump, and that claimed that you, quote, manipulated key evidence in the investigation, end quote, among other claims. Do you recall these accusations to you in the letter from Chairman Jordan?
Yes.
The Republicans of our committee have made these letters to you public. You can read it on the committee's website, including these accusations that your office was weaponized. But this proceeding is behind closed doors, and Majority Counsel just warned you earlier about keeping the contents of this deposition confidential. Do you remember that warning that you received at the beginning of this deposition?
Yes.
So we will get into this in more detail later, but just to quickly touch on this, do you agree with the majority's characterization that your office was weaponized?
No.
Was your special counsel's office weaponized in any way?
No.
Did you conduct a politically motivated prosecution of Donald J. Trump?
I did not.
Would you like to have explained directly to the American people why these characterizations are not true?
Yes, and again, particularly as to the career prosecutors and agents who have been vilified.
Are you concerned that given that this deposition is not open to the public and the public cannot hear your answers or observe your demeanor or hear the way that you're responding to questions of the majority, that some of your responses may be selectively published or released in a way that mischaracterizes your answers?
I would hope that wouldn't happen.
But are you aware that's a risk of your testimony here today?
I'm sure that's possible.
Based upon your knowledge, is it generally the practice for the special counsel who investigated presidential conduct to be given the chance to testify at a public hearing to be able to explain their findings to the American public?
Yes.
So let's just take a few of those. Are you aware of Special Counsel Robert Mueller testifying publicly before the House Judiciary Committee?
Yes.
For the record, that occurred in July of 2019. Are you aware of Special Counsel John Durham testifying publicly before the House Judiciary Committee?
Yes.
For the record, that occurred in June of 2023. Are you aware of Special Counsel Robert Hur, who came up earlier in the majority's hour, testifying before the House Judiciary Committee?
Yes.
For the record, that occurred in March of 2024. Also want to touch a little bit on, speaking of just transparency and the fulsome investigation into this committee's request for documents related to your investigation. We're going to enter into the record another letter from Chairman Jordan. This one's addressed to Attorney General Bondi. This letter seeks records related to the Arctic Frost files, and it's dated October 29th of 2025. This will be Exhibit 9. And you might not be familiar with this document, so I'll give you a second to review it.
Yeah. Notice a long trail of Trump's crimes here. It's like, are you aware of this testimony, of this testimony, of this testimony? It's like, yeah, all the other people that have been involved in prosecuting Trump or involved in cases involving Trump. Like, they're just, there's so many of them. Like, it's difficult to imagine how many crimes this guy has committed and just thus far never been held accountable for. It is absurd. Generally,
It's
like,
not very long,
it's wild.
Okay, I've reviewed it.
So after reviewing it, are you now aware that Chairman Jordan has sought the production of files related to your investigation from the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And just to read that request, it's request number 2. It says, in quotes, all DOJ documents and communications referring or relating to Jack Smith's special counsel investigation for the period of November 18th, 2022 to January 20th of 2025. I just want to get a better understanding of this broad request of all DOJ documents and communications referring to your investigation. I guess what types or categories of documents are associated or would be associated with your investigative files?
You should be able to hear it play now.
There would be numerous documents. I mean, it was a prosecutor's office, so the sort of documents you would associate with the prosecutor's office.
Just to make it clear for the record, can you just give a few examples of what those records or memos might look like or what they might be about?
Prosecution memos, email correspondence with my staff, analysis of the case, things of that nature.
Would these documents include internal decision memos or other records of major decisions made by you and your team during the investigation?
Yes.
Do these files include communications with the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General during the course of your investigation?
I don't I don't think I had any files that would fall into that category. I'm not sure if there'd be, my deputy also communicated.
I am going to step away for 1 second. Oh yeah, this stuff happened like before he was even elected. Like we should have known about all of this like way ahead of time. Like it's ridiculous that we had to wait this long just to get this deposition. But I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick and then we will get back to it. I'll see y'all in just a moment. All right. Sorry. It happens. But yeah, it is interesting and it is good to know. I think I'll queue up other videos and stuff for the next stream though, for more of like a variety of different content. I just saw this video and I was like, I've been wanting to know what Jack Smith said during the deposition. I saw like Kyle Kalinske talking about it and saying that like it was worth listening to, and like I know like the information in it is pretty damning, but it's just there's so much of this. I almost want to put it on double speed. We've only gone through an hour and 40 minutes of an 8-hour video. Like, I'm gonna have to break this up into a couple of smaller streams, but at least if people want to like sit and watch me play games and stuff, they can get through all of his testimony to hear like what was going on with it. And you can also hear the way that they're trying to invalidate it and cast aspersions like upon Jack. But I'll start playing it again and see if like y'all can still understand it with the speed turned up. Let's give it a try.
With the Deputy Attorney General's office, so there may be, but I don't think that's for me.
Do these files include communications just with other DOJ officers? I think earlier you mentioned possible communications with the Solicitor General. But
I don't think people will be able to understand it. It's a bit too fast. Let's go 7.5.
those files include possible communications with that person?
Yes.
Can I just follow up on that for 1 second?
Sure.
You had no communications with the Deputy Attorney General?
No, I took the question to me in terms of like email or things of that nature. We met, I met with the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, at times at their request. So those things did happen. I'm just saying I don't recall me having any sort of email communications with either of them.
And in terms of the special counsel offices, just following up Mr. Golden's question, the office as a whole, if there were email communications between members of your team and the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General, would that probably be a part of your special counsel case files?
Yes.
And as far as you're aware, the current Department of Justice has full access to your documents and memos and files from your investigation. Is that correct?
They should.
In fact, you reviewed those files in preparation for your appearance today, right?
Yes, we were given access to a computer that had files on it. I can't say that it's all the
Yeah,
files,
I
but
thought
we were given
2
access to that,
times
and I
would
reviewed
work
that
well.
preparation today.
Did you follow DOJ protocol in your decision-making, including consulting with relevant offices like the Public Integrity Section, the Office of Legal Counsel, and any other entities as required and encouraged by DOJ policy?
Yes.
Were there examples where these consultations were memorialized in writing, either before or after you met with these offices?
Yes.
So given the majority's claim that the investigation was biased, do you think the case files would help eliminate some of the majority's questions about the actions you took while special counsel?
I have no objection to people looking at the case file.
To your knowledge, has DOJ released all the special counsel's files either to Congress or to the public?
I don't know what they've released to Congress.
Do you believe it's in the public's best interest to view the full case file rather than just selective samples as they've come out so far?
Yeah, I agree.
The reason I'm pausing is
1.75.
I'm not sure it's proper for me to weigh
seems
in on
like
that. I don't know if there are, for example,
pretty
confidential
good.
information regarding witnesses that shouldn't be made public. And so I think that's a matter for others besides me who have the case files in their possession now to review and decide.
So let's just narrow it a little bit. Do you think it would be beneficial for the committee to review the case files so we can understand why certain investigative steps were taken?
I'm going to leave that to others to decide. I'm here and I'm happy to answer any questions you or anybody else might have.
If the case files were released, would they include any political considerations by you or your team as you investigated and charged these cases?
We did not consider politics. I did not consider politics, anyone's politics in charging these cases.
And that would be borne out, presumably, by the case files?
I'm not aware of anything in the case files that would contradict that.
Because it never happened.
It never happened.
I also just want to note the authorization that you got from DOJ, and I think this is marked as Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3 by the majority. It was quite broad, right?
Which one is this now?
This is Exhibit 3, a letter from the Department of Justice to your counsel.
Oh, yes, we've got a lot of letters here, so.
Just don't have a lot of evidence
Here you go.
that's been disclosed.
Okay, I have a letter now,
Okay,
yes.
so I'm looking at page 3 on the bottom, but this letter essentially walks through a series of topics that you are authorized by the DOJ to discuss.
Correct.
So on the bottom of page 3, I'm reading here from the letter. The extraordinary events underlying this matter constitute exceptional circumstances warranting an extraordinary accommodation to Congress in this particular case. Given these extraordinary circumstances, to the greatest extent allowable by law, the Department authorizes Mr. Smith to provide unrestricted testimony to the committee, irrespective of potential privilege, including the names of line attorneys and agents in the department as it pertains to the matter identified in this letter, and as limited in paragraph 9-5. And paragraph 9-5 essentially goes through the investigations that you undertook and
Yeah, but being neurospicy doesn't mean that, like, you can't listen to quick videos.
And the Arctic Frost
You know, we have a lot of
Correct.
divergencies
So
ourselves,
given
and
that
like,
DOJ gave you unrestricted or authorization to provide unrestricted
still
testimony,
prefer to listen to
would
it
it make
quicker.
sense that DOJ then should also give this committee unrestricted access to the case files that's currently in its possession?
I'll leave it to others to decide that. I will say that the paragraph you read is different than it's been with past special counsel. Past special counsel usually testify about the contours of their report. They've changed the process here, and I'm still here willing to answer questions.
We're going to, I believe we're on Exhibit 10 now. We're going to potentially be your special counsel reports, Volume 1, dated January 7th, 2025. And this is a document. This is a document you're very familiar with, but we'll pass it around. So as the date of your report says, on January 7th, 2025, and as your time as special counsel was coming to an end, you provide a final report to the Attorney General where you explain the prosecution and declination decision that you made as special counsel as required by 28
What are you getting
CFR
at the
628.
store?
Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
What was your goal in preparing this report?
I wanted to, at first, make sure I
Yeah,
fulfilled
I mean, a lot of
obligation
people
under
do
the special
talk
counsel
slow.
regulations to do a report.
I know, like, I'm also guilty
And
of
was this
that.
final report an accurate account of your
I
investigation
think
and
it's
findings?
like
It was.
probably my
Based
autism.
upon your understanding, is it generally the practice for a special counsel's report to be made public to the American people?
I believe so. I know at times they've been, portions have been redacted in the past, but my general understanding is yes.
To the best
Right,
of your knowledge, do you
groceries
recall
are
special
so damn
counsel Miller's
expensive
report
right
being made
now.
public?
It was public, yes.
To the best of your recollection, do you recall special counsel Hur's report being made public?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, do you recall special counsel Weiss's report being made public?
I don't recall either. If it may be, I don't know.
Was your report made public in full?
This report as to the election case, I believe it was made public.
Did you have a separate volume or a volume 2 of your report?
That's correct.
Was that made public?
No.
Touching on volume 2, in your letter to the Attorney General, you also recommended that volume 2 of this report, which discusses the classified documents case, not be publicly released while the cases
And
of
just,
Mr.
like,
Nauta and Mr. Carlos de Oliveira remain pending.
blazing
Do
through
you
these
recall saying in your letter
knolls.
to the Attorney General?
That's what's in the letter, yes.
Can you explain, please explain why you included that recommendation?
I'm like, you know,
When a special
I'm
counsel
more
draft
like
a report
the
like this, it's not for me
base.
to decide whether
I'm like the based WoW streamer, you know? I know people are usually used to getting like Asmongold and chuds and that type of thing playing this game, but like I have fun with it, and I feel like you know, I'm not nearly as like cringe as these people. I don't know why people would listen to someone like Asmongold at all, but I mean they do. He's very popular. He's got like 4 million subscribers. Just ridiculous. I'm like, you want to listen to some toothless guy. Well, I mean, I guess he bought his teeth back, but like, you're going to listen to some dude who literally all of his teeth rotted out because he just didn't brush his teeth, and he claimed that he had a dead rat that he would use as an alarm clock when the sun would come out and heat the rat's corpse up, and the stench of it would wake him up, and that's how he woke up every day. Like, why? Why is that someone that you'd want to like listen to for political content? I don't know. Very strange. The world is a strange place.
it gets made public or not. It's for the Attorney General, and it's for him to also decide what portions, if any, get redacted in that. And so what I stated was my, in essence, recommendation that it should not be public because these cases are pending, and there are facts in here that it might not be fair to have that be public while they're pending against them.
Understood. So other than the fact that the cases of Mr. Nauta and Mr. Oliveira were still pending, as you just discussed, did you have any other reasons to believe or to recommend that Volume 2 of the report should not be publicly released?
Well, again, That wasn't my choice. My choice was to write a report for the Attorney General to make a decision about whether it would be public. I have no objection to it being public, and I didn't then, as long as it complies with the law in terms of 6E and other issues like that.
If we just go back to that recommendation, in making the recommendation on the letter that it not be made public, understanding that's the AG's decision to release the report, did you have any other reasons for making that recommendation other than the ongoing cases of Mr. Nowitz and Mr. Oliveira?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. No reason other than that.
Is there any other reason right now, since Mr. Nowitz and Mr. Oliveira's cases are no longer pending, is there any reason now that you can think of, other than Judge Cannon's order, where Volume 2 of the report should not be released?
Judge Cannon's order is the reason.
Excuse me, can I jump in? Do you know who was responsible? Did you dismiss the Nauda and Oliveira cases?
No.
Do you know who dismissed them?
I don't recall, but I imagine it's a matter of public record.
If I told you that it was after Donald Trump was inaugurated, would you agree with that?
I don't recall, but if that may well be true.
For the purpose of this remaining conversation, since that's a publicly identifiable fact, I will represent to you that it was done by the Trump administration. You charged that case, correct?
Correct.
You went through your extensive experience as a prosecutor. Do you believe that Mr. Nauda and Mr. Oliveira were guilty of the crimes that they were charged with?
Yes, we believed that we had proof beyond a reasonable doubt for all the charges, and that we would have gotten convictions at trial. Yes.
And are you aware of any reason?
Hey, smart and kind are good things
rules,
to be.
protocols, and regulations of the Department of Justice that case should have been dismissed?
In my view, no, it shouldn't have been.
Real quickly, before I turn over to Mr. Jayapal, are you able to speak about Volume 2 today?
I'm not.
Can you explain what you can and cannot speak about with respect to Volume 2?
Well, there is an order of Judge Cannon, an injunction regarding Volume 2. I want to make very clear that I do not want to do anything to violate that injunction or that order. And so, given that I have not seen or looked at Volume 2 since I submitted it to the Attorney General almost a year ago, I do not have the exact recollection of what is in there and not. And so, unless something is in a public filing, or people can point me to a public filing, or in, I think, the category that was mentioned in the letter that we got this morning of publicly, I can't remember the terminology, but properly publicly released information, I do not want to, I want to be clear, I do not want to violate that order, and I don't want to do anything that could even be remotely construed as violating that order.
Wait, so, I'm sorry, but DOJ did not let you review Volume 2 of your report?
It may well have been there, but I chose not to review it because I didn't want any implication whatsoever that I was somehow violating the order by looking at it, not being a member of the department now.
So before we get to Mr. Jayapal, I just want to clear up two things. One, so you've been an assistant DA, you've been a federal prosecutor, you were an international court
dual
prosecutor, you were the chief
PhD.
of the
That's
public
like
integrity section at DOJ, and you were
that is quite an
first assistant U.S. attorney in
accomplishment.
Nashville and the acting U.S. attorney. Do you have any idea how many cases you've actually handled in prosecuting?
That I've handled or supervised others handling? I'm sure it's in the thousands.
In the thousands, okay. Have you ever been prosecuted for selective prosecution, vindictive prosecution, or partisan discrimination?
Never.
Have you ever fired a prosecutor because they refused to engage in a prosecution on grounds that there was not sufficient evidence?
No.
Okay. And in all of the cases that you have supervised and prosecuted yourself directly, relating to domestic violence, relating to conspiracy, relating to murder, relating to war crimes, have you encountered the problem of witness intimidation?
Very much so.
Will you speak a bit about the problem of witness intimidation and what that does to the rule of law and justice?
Witness intimidation is probably the most corrosive thing that can happen to the rule of law. And that is why, as a young prosecutor, you are taught to move your cases expeditiously. Because you know that if there is someone trying to obstruct your case, the longer they have to do that, the more they can subvert justice. And
Yeah, evolutionary biologist. That's a lot of science.
I've worked on cases overseas involving very serious witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. And as I mentioned earlier, this case as well. And so that was foremost in my mind as we were conducting these investigations, but it's something I've encountered in different contexts throughout my career, even back to those domestic violence cases that I started in earlier in my career. Attempts to threaten or influence those witnesses are a way to subvert justice.
So what kinds of actions and precautions can you take as a prosecutor to prevent it and to try to protect witnesses against intimidation and violence?
So depending on the situation, there would be different sorts of steps that you could take. Obviously, if it's
I
if
should
it's
buy bags for this character. I just realized that like
for a period of time.
my
But
inventory
if it's a more
is so
pervasive
tiny.
threat, where a defendant or people on his behalf are issuing statements and issuing threats, trying to get people not to cooperate with your case, or trying to make an example of people who have cooperated with your case, the best thing you can do is limit their ability to make those threats and shorten the time they have to make those threats.
Magistrate's terrace.
Can I just one thing on Volume 2 before we go?
This might be
It's
painful.
obviously a case related to classified documents. Without getting into the detail, how was it constructed? How was it written? Was there an unclassified portion and a classified portion, or is the classified material interwoven in the volume?
I don't think I should even talk about that. I don't want to have any implication that I gave some sort of insight about how that report is constructed, and so I don't really think I can speak about that given her order.
Can I ask you this question? Is it possible to release parts of that report while also protecting classified material?
I very much want to answer your question, but I don't want to say anything that will imply what is in the report, and so unfortunately I don't think I can.
Okay, again, I'm going to go to Ms. Jayapal. We'll come back to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, I want to get to questions of transparency again, but I want to pull out to a bigger question. Do you think that it's important for our democracy to hold free and fair elections without interference or obstruction?
Yes.
And theoretically, what happens if there is election interference and the people who are responsible for that are not held accountable?
it becomes the new norm, and that becomes how we conduct elections.
And so the toll on our democracy, if you have to describe that, what would that be?
Catastrophic.
You stated in your testimony in the first hour that you tried to be as transparent as possible with the American people about your investigations. The chairman of the committee has repeatedly put out that you were subpoenaed for your testimony today.
I never really appreciated Warriors until now, I think. Like, genuinely. It's just so fun to have, like, a big two-handed
And why were
bonker.
you willing to appear voluntarily in public?
We conducted our investigation in a way that I'm proud of. I'm particularly proud of the people I conducted the investigation with, and I wanted to speak for them.
And is it generally the practice of special counsels to appear in a public hearing? I know you have a couple of questions on this, but I want to reiterate this.
That is my general understanding, yes.
And can you tell us again why I understand you want to stick up for the prosecutors or people that were part of the investigation. Can you tell us why it's important for the American people to hear directly from you about
And it's just kind of like fun to be like, powered by anger.
Well, as I said in the beginning of, I think, my opening remarks, there have been mischaracterizations about my work. We did our work in the best traditions of the department, and I know I keep coming back to this, but the mischaracterizations that most offend me are not just prosecutors, but career FBI agents, support staff in the department. These are people who devoted their lives to public servants, to being public servants. They have not,
I'm
they're not
playing
self-promoters.
World
They're
of
not people who
Warcraft.
like to go in front of the cameras and defend themselves.
It's a
And,
retail version, though.
I feel that they have been vilified in a way that I think is awful.
What's the effect of that on our democracy?
Well, I think it drives people away from
I
public
love
service.
Clydesdales, too. They're like some of my favorite horsies.
I think it's even deeper than that. I think, when we get to attacking the people who are the good guys,
Yeah.
I just don't know where that goes. It's counter to how I was raised.
And let me ask you, even after this deposition today, are you still willing to appear at a public hearing before this committee and speak directly to the American people about your investigation?
Yes.
Can I jump in really quickly just on the witness intimidation issue? As I understand it, you were asked a lot of questions about filings that your office made as it relates to trying to protect witnesses, specifically the gag orders. Do you have any regrets about the steps that you took as it relates to seeking gag orders against this defendant in an effort to protect witnesses?
Our applications for orders limiting Donald Trump's ability to intimidate witnesses, intimidate court staff, intimidate my staff, I have no regrets about that.
Dovetailing on that, have you only been further convicted in the decisions that you decided to make as it relates to that in watching some of the president's actions even in present day?
I think the record of our case speaks for itself on these issues.
Could I just follow up on the gag orders relative to the defendants? In every case, a judge decided that that was warranted, correct?
In the cases in the District of Columbia, a judge did decide that, and the Court of Appeals agreed. They narrowed the order, as I said earlier. In Florida, we applied for an order because of statements Donald Trump had made that I viewed endangered FBI agents that hadn't been decided when the case was dismissed.
Thank you.
And just to kind of finish up on this point, you yourself, I'm not sure if this was discussed by the majority, but have you yourself been intimidated as a result of the actions that you took in this case?
I'm not going to be intimidated.
Have you been threatened?
Yes.
Have you learned of other persons, whether they worked under you as attorneys or other support staff? Are you aware of any threats that have been made against any of them?
Yes.
And, okay, I'll stop there.
Mr. McGill? Thank you, Mr. Smith. I really have two questions. First question, which our counsel able to
It's
cover, just so we're clear.
It's
You wanted to testify
basically WoW
correct?
retail
Yes, I would.
version as opposed to like
Chairman
the
Jordan
classic
declined
or remix
that.
version.
Correct?
Yes.
Any thoughts
And
as to
I've got
why
tons of
Chairman Jordan is scared to have you testify?
tons of other mounts and
I'm not
stuff.
going to characterize the chairman's decision.
I've got
I
other
offered, he
horses
decided that
too.
we would do it in this setting.
I just like
That is what
the
it is.
headless horseman's mount
Well, I
because
think,
it's
America's
rare
Release transcript.
and also it can fly. But I have like
Thank you, sir.
unicorns and
I'm
stuff
going
I
to switch gears a
can
little bit to
fly
your
around on
appointment as special
too.
counsel. Do you recall when you were appointed as special counsel?
Yes, it was November, I believe, November of 2022.
Does November 18th, 2022 sound right?
That sounds about right.
Do you recall the day that Donald Trump announced his candidacy for the 2024 election?
I believe it was shortly before that.
So who offered you the position of special counsel?
The Attorney General.
And what was your understanding of why the Attorney General felt it was necessary to appoint a special counsel in this circumstance?
He's
I
gotta,
believe the
like,
Attorney General
talk
made a
forever
public
before he
statement about
dies.
why, and that public statement is my
There he
understanding.
goes.
We can maybe enter that public statement a little later. But what did you understand the scope of your investigation to be specifically when you were appointed?
The scope was defined by the appointment order, which encompassed the two investigations that I've referred to today.
And can you just make the record clear again, just briefly describe those two investigations and then appointment order?
Sure, and I don't have the order in front of me, so just
Actually, so let's make it an
Yeah.
exhibit. We'll make it an exhibit. Let's make the appointment order an exhibit. And this will be exhibit 11, I believe. Make it easier just to refresh your recollection.
Thank you.
So like this is the horseman's mount, but
So
I've
after you
got
take a minute
other
to review it, and please take
like
your time.
horses and
The
stuff.
question will be, what did you understand the scope of your investigation to be?
Okay, so consistent with this order, the scope was two investigations,
Apply
both of
this
them
point
ongoing at the
real
time. The first was an ongoing investigation into whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with efforts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election or the certification of the electoral college vote held on or about January 6, 2021, as well as any matters that arose or might directly arise from this investigation.
Do you know why, or have you heard why the Attorney General chose you to be the special counsel?
Why he chose me?
Yes.
No.
At the time of your appointment, I understand you were living in the Netherlands. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you lobby for this position?
No.
Did you petition the Attorney General to be the special counsel?
I did not.
Did you reach out to any former colleagues of the Department of Justice expressing your interest in being the special counsel?
I had been in contact with a former colleague by the name of Marshall Miller. He had returned to the department sometime
Yeah,
that
spell
summer,
deflection.
and
That's
I had
really
spoken to
good.
him and expressed to him an interest in if there was a requisition return to the
And
department.
recklessness.
Ultimately, why did you accept the special counsel position?
Because I thought I was the right person for the job. I knew that this would be a challenging job. I knew it would be a job where whoever held the job, whatever decision they made, somebody would want to attack them for that decision.
Take thunderclap?
I
Yeah,
felt that given
so.
my
Hold
nearly
on.
30 years as a prosecutor,
Let me get rid of that.
qualified to do the work.
I hate thunderclap.
Did you have any reservations
There
about
we go.
accepting the special counsel position?
No.
I just
There
don't
were a lot
like the
of
ability.
attacks
It
on
doesn't
you
do
to
like
your
hardly
name
any
throughout
damage at all
time as special counsel. You said earlier
on
that you
Fury
were
anyway.
intimidated.
It's like a
How
waste
did you
of
move forward
talent.
consistently with those attacks while special counsel?
I think attacks
think that works
and
a little
praise
bit
are
better.
noise, and as a prosecutor, I've learned to tune those things out. I'm more concerned, again, about the attacks
So,
on my staff. But for
I got
myself, I
like a
understand that
ton
that's,
of
can be part of the work at
a
times.
ton of mounts.
Did you accept the role, as some have suggested, because you had animus towards President Trump?
No.
See, I've
Did you
got
accept
like
the role,
this one.
as some have suggested, because you hope to influence the 2024 presidential election in favor of the Democratic nominee?
No.
Did you accept the role because you thought it would help the Democratic nominee by
Man, it's
prosecuting
so
Donald Trump
pretty.
before the election took place in 2024?
No.
Let's consider
But
the same
it
facts related to the
can't,
attack on the Capitol
it
on January
can't
6th,
fly.
or the mishandling of classified documents. That's the facts we're going to consider here. Take the same facts, but insert a president who was a Democrat. Would you have still accepted the role of special counsel?
100%.
But I have
Consider the same facts.
I
So
have
the same fact
plenty
of
of
the attack on the Capitol on
unicorns,
January 6th, the same facts of unlawfully taking classified documents after leaving the White House.
And they can
Would you still
fly.
have accepted the role of special counsel to investigate former President Barack Obama?
Yes.
I love the way
Again,
that
considering
they
the same facts, would you
bounce in
accept
the
the role of
air.
special counsel to investigate
Like
former
they're,
President Joe Biden?
it's like they're
Yes.
prancing in the air. It's so cute.
Looking back, and you talked about the investigation steps that you've taken here in the position today. I think I've heard you talk about, process of an investigation and how that's important. Would your investigative process have differed if the President of the United States would have been a Democrat?
No.
Someone have a follow-up on that?
Yeah. I served on the January 6th Select Committee. We spent a lot of time looking
Yeah,
through
I
the
think
criminal
they're
statutes that may have
very
implicated,
adorable.
in the attack on the peaceful transfer of power, the attempt to overthrow the election, and then the violent assault on the Capitol. And we, in our conclusions, cited a number of statutes which ended up, I think, being part of your investigation, including conspiracy to obstruct federal proceeding, conspiracy to defraud.
All
United
right,
States,
level
false statements, and so on. But you
37,
added something
Silly. I've
which,
almost gained
I think,
20
was
levels
very interesting, which was a
since
conspiracy
being
to
on.
violate voting rights, which is something that we haven't done. And I wonder if you would take a moment to expound on why you thought you had sufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a conspiracy to violate the voting rights of people.
Sure. The right to vote in a presidential election is one of the most sacred rights that Americans have. And in this particular case, we had strong evidence that the defendants in this case sought to interfere with, obstruct, injure that right. We had evidence, in just a couple examples, where President Trump was asking local officials to find 11,000 votes. When you find 11,000 votes, you're diluting other people's votes. We had evidence that they were targeting certain states, and particularly certain parts of certain states, generally urban parts of states, to have those votes thrown out with no factual basis whatsoever. I believe we cited this in our final report, but there's even statements of the co-conspirators in this case, at least one I'm coming to mind now, specifically saying we want to get rid of these votes. We want to subtract them. And diluting the vote count in that way, there's strong precedent for that being a violation of the statute that we charge.
There were 60 federal or state court decisions rejecting claims of electoral fraud, electoral corruption that had been brought by President Trump or his teammates. To what extent did that figure into your analysis?
I have
of that
all
problem?
these other items.
Well, the lawsuits, we made clear in our indictment that there are proper ways to dispute an election, and asking for an audit, which President Trump did, and I believe in only 2 of the states that were in question, that's a way you can do that. Filing lawsuits,
that's helpful.
completely legal and proper way to do that. But in this case, those lawsuits were part of our proof that
I
put
do like to
President Trump and his
level
co-conspirators
pretty
on notice
fast.
that the suits, their
Just
results,
play
and the
through
things
it.
the court said in finding those
All
suits
right.
without merit.
Let's put
put
these
in,
back,
one
though,
component
so
of
you get,
evidence
like,
that put them on
lots of
notice
extra space.
That these allegations were false. Also, there were instances where there were protectual lawsuits. There was one lawsuit, for example, that was filed in New Mexico minutes before the deadline, so they could say there was a dispute in New Mexico, so they could proceed forward with the fake electorate ballot. There was another lawsuit in Georgia where one of the co-conspirators explicitly said in an email, "We're on notice that the things in this lawsuit aren't accurate, so we shouldn't have the president sign a certification on this lawsuit." And then they played with the language a little and had him sign a certification nonetheless. And so these lawsuits, well, filing a lawsuit absolutely clearly is something we can do.
Sell some
They
stuff.
were probative evidence of the criminal intent in this case for those limited reasons I just suggested.
Can I go back to Volume 2 just for a second? You said that the department gave you access to Volume 2 and you chose not to use it?
That's correct. I believe so. I did not, given the injunction, want to look at that. And so I believe it was there, but I was looking at other things. I didn't look at that.
Did they give you access to any classified information that was a part of your files?
No.
The cloth is usually
did
like
you or your
worth a
attorneys have
decent
any
amount of
discussions
gold.
with the department about that?
I try to make sure I always sell the
Do you
cloth.
still have your security clearance?
No.
When and how was that taken away?
I think in the normal course of things, when you leave government service, you sign papers basically saying you don't have your security clearance
Rousing
anymore.
order.
It's vague, but that's my recollection of what happened at my conclusion of my service.
Do you know
There
if
we
your
go.
attorneys requested for you to have temporary security clearance so you could review your own files?
I don't believe we did.
And because you didn't look at the volume 2 that they provided to you,
Not
you don't
gonna.
know
I'm not gonna
whether
use
or
any of
not
the rest of this
classified
stuff. So I'm
material
just gonna
was
like
provided to you
sell it
in that volume.
or
Again, I don't want
delete
to speak
it.
about anything that could infer the content of
Oh wait, actually, I'll take that
When
ring.
you provided volume 2 to the Attorney General, did you provide proposed
Look at that,
redactions?
72 to like
I
152.
believe we did, but I believe we did.
And the redactions
But
were?
I just want to be, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. With the understanding that it was ultimately the Attorney General's decision whether to make it public, whether to do redactions, things of that nature.
And what were the nature of your proposed redactions?
I don't recall as I sit here now.
Was it related to the classified information?
I don't recall. It could have been 60, it could have been things of that nature.
Did you make proposed redactions because of your concern at all about the ongoing case against Noda and Olivera?
I don't recall that, but I can't be conclusive. I really don't have a good memory of the subject.
I'm curious, shifting gears just a little bit. When you first sat down, the majority was asking you questions that seemingly were tied into the general duties of a prosecutor, and your resume has been laid out. It is interesting, or at least it was interesting to me, to hear the majority characterize who should be prosecuted under the current circumstances. I'm not sure if you followed along, but are you aware that under this DOJ, they have indicted Tish James as well as they ultimately indicted James Comey? Are you aware of that?
I am.
And are you also aware of the fact that this DOJ has consistently dismissed members of the DOJ for refusing to bring forth indictments that they don't believe have merit?
Yes.
The majority was asking you about why it is that you characterize your belief that there was guilt as it relates to the indictment that you sought. As a trained prosecutor, typically, are you supposed to go after people that you don't believe are actually guilty?
I'm trying to, there's a couple of negatives in the question.
I know.
Yeah.
They were trying
You're
to,
not supposed to go after people who you believe are not guilty.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. All right, now we can
your
go back
experience
to
of
kicking
3
some butt in
decades,
some dungeons.
Have you ever needed to seek the same indictment 3 times while being rejected?
Never.
I think that's all I have for that.
Have you ever prosecuted someone that you did not believe?
The other
was
thing
guilty
is
beyond
that
reasonable doubt?
the Comey stuff it's already been dismissed. And do you know why it was dismissed? Does everyone know why the Comey case was dismissed? That Trump was like, oh, Comey, there's clearly like some corruption going on here. You're clearly up to no good. Why did they dismiss that case? They dismissed the case because Comey's attorneys were going to subpoena Trump's like emails and phone records during discovery. And because you're allowed to do that when someone is accusing you of crimes, especially because you're saying that, part of your investigation originally was investigating their phone records and their emails. And you're saying that this is just, this is aspersions, that this person is telling the Department of Justice to make up charges, to trump up charges, literally. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as it went to go to discovery, the DOJ dropped the charges against Comey. So fast. I wonder why Trump keeps dropping cases or keeps refusing to be involved in discovery, or is so upset that there might be discovery used against him. I wonder what he's hiding in all of his emails and phone records and stuff, if he can even remember them. Like Dementia Dawn, to be fair, might not even remember what he has in those records. But I would love to be able to subpoena that stuff and see what's going on in it. I just find it odd that somebody who's so innocent and only has perfect phone calls and never does anything illegal, like has never done anything against the law, why is he so worried about his phone records being reviewed? Why is he so afraid of discovery? It's just weird. Like, I'm just some like random trans streamer girl on the internet, and I don't worry about like, oh no, if there was ever discovery for my phone records, I wouldn't sweat it because there's nothing for me to worry about. And yet, Trump, who would insist that there's nothing for him to worry about, literally dropped the entire case against Comey because he, they didn't even have specific things that they were going to go after him in discovery. They just wanted to be able to review his phone records and email records in discovery to see if he was directing the FBI and like Kash Patel to explicitly seek prosecution against Comey as like retaliation with no evidence of a crime. And that's exactly what he was doing. That's the reason why he's dropping it. Yeah, dropped an entire lawsuit. More like a lol suit. But whatever.
Never.
As we hit, I know we're getting close to the end of our time, I want to hit on a few questions. And I apologize, they come off as very obvious to you with your experience and the way that you conduct yourself with the Department of Justice. Did Attorney General Garland or other DOJ officials direct investigative steps within your office as special counsel?
No.
Did Attorney General Garland or other DOJ officials direct litigation decisions within your office?
No.
Did you experience Attorney General Garland or other DOJ officials interfering with your ability to conduct this investigation?
No.
Did President Biden ever give you any instructions about what you should or should not do related to these investigations?
No.
Did you ever speak to President Biden about these investigations?
No.
I think Mr. Moss would put the question. No,
Not the definition of retribution. Webster's definition. So now,
Now we fight a
Off the
bunch
top of my head, I do
of
not.
bad orcs.
if I proffered that it was exacting a punishment against someone, would that sound better?
Yes. Yes.
Your lawyers lost their security clearance, is that correct?
Yes.
The people who work under you were fired, is that correct?
That's correct.
You're here today on a deposition that Sherman has brought you into, but and wouldn't give you a public hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see the comments by the President's chief of staff talking about retribution?
I did.
So, everyone was fired. You're here on a deposition. Your lawyers lost their security clearance.
Not the paladin.
Seems like it needs-
Our
not
tank's
only
name is
Webster, it seems like
Pink
this is
Nails.
exactly what Trump's chief of staff was talking about. No?
I have no doubt that the president wants to seek retribution against me. I have no doubt that that's the intent
That
of
was
his.
his walk.
Yeah.
The exact quote was, he doesn't wake up thinking about it, but when there's an opportunity, he goes for it. I mean, it seems like an opportunity. You think the White House gave instructions to Chairman Jordan to set this deposition?
So I am eyes wide open that this president will seek retribution against me if he can. I know that. I don't, frankly, connect that with this hearing. I don't have any connection. I came here. I was asked to
No,
come
you
here.
think there were 0 conversations between the White House and Chairman Jordan?
I don't know, but I'm here in good faith, and I was asked to come testify.
What's the likelihood that there were less than 0 conversations between the White House and Chairman Jordan?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I will say I agree that this department wants to seek retribution against anybody who worked on cases against President Trump. I just don't have any evidence.
Why do you think Chairman wouldn't give you a public hearing?
That's not for me to say.
I want to go back to your testifying that in every case you've ever brought, you've believed that there is proof beyond a reasonable doubt to demonstrate that the defendant is guilty. I'm not sure it would be even ethical to bring a case if you didn't have that belief. But is there anything inconsistent about having that belief that you can sustain the prosecutor's burden of showing beyond a reasonable doubt all of the elements of the crime are satisfied, and also wanting to see that constitutional due process is observed in the trial? Is there any conflict between those?
I don't see one.
In other words, as a prosecutor, you go in with the belief that you can make your case, but you also want to make that case within the rule of law and within due process. And you've never experienced that as a problem, right? You've never wanted to trample the rules of due process in order to convict someone.
That's correct.
Okay. Mark's back to you. Over.
I just wanted to piggyback on something that Ms. Crockett brought up earlier, but are you familiar with Justice Manual 927-220?
You're going to have to give me more than the number.
All right. So that provision basically is states the condition with which a prosecutor can commence.
Yeah, and
or
this one,
recommend
this
federal
like just don't
prosecution.
stand in the
And I
purple
can
and the little
quote
pink
from
rings.
that section
They
for
will
you. It
absolutely
says,
melt you.
Prosecutor may commence or recommend federal prosecution only if he or she believes that the person will more likely than not be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by an unbiased trier of fact, and that the conviction will be upheld on appeal. So does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. Did you follow this provision when you indicted President Trump in the election interference case?
Yes.
And did you follow that provision when you indicted President Trump and his co-conspirators? Oh, sorry, no, just President Trump in the classified documents case.
Yes.
And his co-conspirators. Did you?
In that
follow
case, yes.
Okay. And the majority in their hour questioned you about why you included conduct that has not been found, that has not been brought forth before a trier of fact, right? That has not been proven in a court of law. But aren't you just essentially restating the standard that was that's stated in Justice Manual 927-220?
Yes. With our report, I wanted to explain my prosecutorial decisions, why we made them, the basis for them, and that's why we wrote the report the way we did.
Yeah,
In the last 2 minutes of our hour,
the guild
please bear with me as I
here
go through
that
these
they're
next
part
questions.
of
There's
is
a
a
lot of
pyramid
inferences and accusations being made
scheme.
about your bias as a special counsel's office. I want to make sure that we rebut these in the first hour. I think it's important too. So, did the Attorney General or any other DOJ official ever pressure you to be more
Some
aggressive in your
people.
investigation of President Donald J. Trump?
No.
Did the Attorney General or any other DOJ official ever suggest that
Yeah,
you
I love
expected
the
to bring
color
charges
of
against
them,
President Trump?
even if they
Did anyone from the
really
White House,
kill
including
me.
President Biden, ever tell you they expected you to bring charges against Donald Trump?
No.
When you eventually did bring charges against Donald Trump, how did you make that decision? Walk us through it at a high level, if you don't mind.
Sure. It was based on the facts and based on the law. I ultimately made that decision, but I consulted with my team of prosecutors on that case, who were outstanding public servants, people with great experience in complex investigations. I took their advice and counsel in making that decision, and I tried to consider all factors, including both the strength of the case that we believe we had, possible defenses, all things of that nature.
So, which based on what you just said, it sounds like you made this prosecution decision based on the evidence in the law. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did he say
What would you have
this
done if you felt any
prostitution?
improper pressure from a DOJ official or the White House?
I think
Freudian
people who know me
slip?
and know my reputation would know that that would not end well. Someone tried to pressure me to move a case in one direction or the other where wasn't supported by the law. I wouldn't stand for it, and I would also say the people who work in my office wouldn't stand for that either.
Yep, right, our hours will end there. Thank you.
No, yeah, it's more off the record stuff now. I'll skip it in just a second. I just don't want to fall behind. Off the record.
You you don't recall any request for the toll records of members of Congress or United States Senators.
Well, I'm saying we may
Oh,
well
God,
have,
we're back
they
to
may
the
well have
toll
happened. I just, as I
record
sit here right now,
crap
don't recall
again.
a specific instance of that. I'm not denying that that happened.
Okay.
Once the department gets the records, what does it do with it? I know the FBI has something they call the cellular analysis survey team cast. But do you know what happens with the records once they get them?
The analysis, like how they do the analysis.
What do you do with the records?
That would not be my area of expertise. How the analysis is actually
And
conducted.
how does that get rolled back into the team?
What do you mean?
The team's work, the prosecutor's work. So you subpoenaed Speaker McCarthy's toll records after he became Speaker, and you sought records from November 2020 through January 8th, 2021. But what were you looking for with his records? Like, what did you do with the information you obtained?
Okay, so what the relevance of those records?
What do you think a
I'll give you several
prosecutor,
examples, but,
like, what do you think a prosecutor would be doing? Subpoenaing records of this congressperson in, like, Trump's case. How is this a serious question? Like, this person is literally just wasting time. Is all that they're doing. When it's like, everyone knows why he would subpoena the records. Like, if you're a prosecutor and you're investigating a crime, what would you be subpoenaing a record for? Well, you'd be wanting to see if they had, you know, any connection to the crime. That's why you would subpoena it. It's that easy.
his contacts with either co-conspirators, the president, or conduits of information to the president was relevant to our investigation. And an example I could give you is on January 6th, we had information from Mark Meadows, who was present for a call where Congressman McCarthy was asking for help. He was asking the president to come to his aid while the Capitol was being seized. Getting the exact toll records for when that happened was relevant for our investigation, both to question other witnesses about, so we had an accurate timeline, and also to corroborate that the call happened in approximately the time witnesses said it happened.
But it's pretty significant to subpoena the Speaker of the House's toll records, right?
We followed department policy, and we followed all legal requirements in getting those records.
Yeah, he's not above the law.
You know, to get the information
Now
you're
is
looking
he?
for, nobody disputed the Speaker and the President were having communications on January 6th. So one way you could have gotten that information is you could have asked the Speaker's lawyer to look at his phone records and to give you the information you needed, right?
Well, you say now that nobody's disputing, but my experience in criminal investigations is that people often at trial dispute things that you never thought were going to be in dispute during the investigation. And so when I conduct a criminal investigation, I don't assume there will be no disputes. Having a record that is a hard record about a time, and the timeline of that afternoon was particularly important because that violence started. The president refused to stop it. He endangered the life of his vice president, and he's getting calls, and not calls from Democrats, not calls from people he doesn't know, calls from people he trusts, calls from people he relies on, and still refuses to come to the aid of the people at the Capitol. That's very important evidence for criminal intent in our case.
Right, but you could ask Elliot Burke for that information, the Speaker's lawyer.
Right.
You could have Elliot.
It's like people, his allies were asking for reinforcements, you know, and he didn't come. Can you imagine if you were like a gamer, you know, and you're like, oh God, we're being pinned down, we need help, and then like your teammates are just like leave you there to die and not care, you know? What a terrible person. Like your own allies, you're not ever going to bother to show up to help them out. Like this guy is such a piece of shit.
Burke to say, can you get us the Speaker's phone records for this time? And he probably would have said, of course, avoiding a toll record subpoena.
And your question?
Why didn't you do that?
We got these records in a manner that was consistent with the law and consistent with department policy. There's nothing improper about how we got these records.
Same with Representative Perry's phone. I mean, you could have asked Representative Perry's lawyer. I mean, there's no evidence that Representative Perry or Speaker McCarthy was interested in obstructing your work, was there?
I don't have any evidence that Speaker McCarthy was, I don't recall any evidence, I should say, that Speaker McCarthy was interested in obstructing our work.
Okay, so with Representative Perry, you could have contacted his lawyer and you could have said, this is what we're looking for. Can you help us achieve this without seizing his phone?
Well, with Congressman Perry, I should point out that the seizure of his phone happened several months before I was ever special counsel. I wasn't involved in that process.
Okay, but in hindsight, would you have counseled taking a different avenue to acquiring a member's phone?
I'm not going to speculate on investigative steps that occurred before I became special counsel.
Okay. When obtaining the toll records of members of Congress or anyone, what is the standard? Must there be some evidence that relates to a criminal prosecution or criminal investigation?
So there has to be a reasonable basis to believe that there will be materially relevant evidence.
Okay. Now, with the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the subpoena, with Speaker McCarthy, the subpoena, the time frame was November 2020 through January 8th, 2021. With the now chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the time frame went back to January 2020. So it was for a full year, where between January 2020 and December of 2020, nobody had any telephone calls about these matters. I'm just curious why you went back to January 2020, the office did.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. When you say you went back, can we just get the date of when
It was May 1st, 2022, and it was before you were appointed. When I say you, I apologize. I mean the office, the effort. I mean, this was before you became special counsel. The D.C. matters were headed up by Thomas Wyndham, as I understand it.
I believe that's right.
And the Florida matters were headed up by Jay Brad.
That's correct.
And so the question is, why would DOJ, why would the team seek records from January 2020, through November of that year, before any of these issues, before anyone knew about any of these issues?
Yeah, I played no role in that subpoena. I was still in Europe at the time, and because I wasn't present or involved, I'm not going to speculate on the basis for the range of time that the prosecutors in that case saw it.
Okay. After you became the special counsel, that information obtained from the subpoena, was available to the special counsel team. What did the team do with it after you became, after you were sworn in?
You mean when you say that information, you're talking about the
Total record subpoena for the chairman of the committee.
Well, I can tell you that, for example, there was contact on, for example, January 6th. That again, another example for you is Mark Meadows. When we interviewed him, he referenced the fact that afternoon Chairman Jordan had been in contact with the White House, and like Congressman McCarthy's contact with the White House, it was relevant because, and again, Meadows stated this, that these were supporters, these were credible people that the president relied on. And what I recall was Meadows stating that I've never seen Jim Jordan scared of anything. And the fact that we were in this different situation now where people were scared really made it clear that what was going on at the Capitol could not be mistaken for anything than what it was. And it goes back to that sort of information from someone who is a credible source to the president, proving that actually happened and that there's actually a record of that call and exactly when it happened and what actions happened after that or didn't happen after that, extremely probative to our case.
Right, but DOJ took Mr. Jordan's phone records from January 2020 through November, through January of the subsequent. I mean, what on earth could the Justice Department want with his phone records before time's relevant?
Sure, and the breadth of that subpoena was before I was special counsel, and I wasn't involved in the deliberations about seeking that subpoena or the breadth of it, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. Can you see from our point of view that there's a perception that there's some overreach going on there?
I understand your question. I don't have any, and I do understand it, I don't have any reason to believe that subpoena was secured for any improper purpose or that it was secured in contravention of department regulations or the law. Okay.
And in terms of who is involved with the authorizations for that type of subpoena? It's your team, it's public integrity, any other Justice Department component?
I cannot speak to that before I was special counsel. I can say that when I was special counsel, I was the person who approved subpoenas of that nature.
Okay.
And with, of course, the fact that I wanted consultation with public integrity.
Okay. So that was the universe of DOJ authorization. It was you and public integrity. You didn't have to go to the DAG, you didn't have to go to OLC, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When the subpoena was served for certain members of the Judiciary Committee, it was served by an official at the Department of Justice's Inspector General, which, from our point of view, raises a conflict of interest. I mean, the Inspector General is supposed to be conducting oversight, if necessary, of department components. Certainly, if department components are being real aggressive with members of Congress, we might want the IG to conduct a probe of that, right? But if the IG is on your team and they're doing this with you, that presents a problem for us. And so the question is, why was the IG's office serving these subpoenas? Why were they? They went in. I know it was before you were the special counsel, but they went on a Perry search. They took his phone and they introduced his phone. I mean, the IG here is
saying this. It's
just
like if it was before he was.
Yes, with the understanding that I obviously wasn't
special
in that
counsel,
decision chain because I wasn't involved in the case. But
he's
my
not involved in
understanding
it.
is that the Jeffrey Clark component of this investigation, he was a Department of Justice employee during the period of time that we were, and my predecessors were investigating this. And it's my understanding that is why they were involved in the investigation.
But understood. But why, when it comes to members of Congress, didn't? I don't understand. Like, I understand they had a Jeffrey Clark investigation going on, but when it comes to members of Congress, I mean, the IG has a special relationship with Congress. Why are they allowed to be involved?
Again, all I can tell you is what I just told you. This was before my time, but my understanding about why it occurred is because they were involved in that aspect of the investigation.
And were they involved after you became the special counsel? Were they involved in serving toll record subpoenas related to members of Congress, to your knowledge?
My recollection is that they may still have been involved. My primary dealings were with the FBI, but they may well have stayed as part of the investigation. I didn't have a lot of interaction with them.
Okay. And when some of these toll record subpoenas were served by the IG's office, do you know whether they knew they were serving toll record subpoenas related to a member of Congress?
Are you talking about in the period of time when I was special counsel or before?
When you were the special counsel.
As I said here, just to be clear, I'm not aware. I don't recollect that people in the DOJ Inspector General's office were serving subpoenas during my time. Okay. Could well be.
It's like a Judge Stroud situation.
Okay. I can represent to you that they did serve subpoenas before your time. I mean, they served one in May of 2022 related to the chairman of the committee.
Yeah, and as I said, before my time, I can't speak to that because, I was in Europe. I wasn't in the investigation.
But after you became, after you were appointed, that wasn't occurring to the best of your knowledge?
I just don't have a recollection of that.
Okay.
But actually, I want to be clear. I'm not sure in my role I would know which individual agent was serving a subpoena, so that's not something I would have necessarily known in the first place. Just I want to make that clear.
Fair enough, but if it was from the IG's office, wouldn't that raise like an issue?
I'm just saying to you, in my role, I was not like directing which agent would serve which subpoena.
Okay. Did you have interactions with the IG's office on the Jeff Clark matter?
I can't think of any now, but I don't want to say that they may have been possible I did, but as I sit here now, I can't think of any.
I mean, were they a part of the team after you were appointed?
That's what I said earlier. My recollection is that they were.
Okay. With the toll record subpoenas for the senators, one of the lines requested was a Senate landline. Did you know about that?
I don't recall knowing about any particular lines. My role, as I saw it, was to understand who my prosecutors thought we should be getting toll records for, to make sure we had a basis for that under the statute, a reasonable basis. I don't recall discussions about how they figured out what lines we'd be going for.
Because at least in the House, if you place a call from a landline in the House, it goes out scrambled. So, to the extent DOJ thinks they have the right number, it would be scrambled. And so it's just raises questions as to why the office would subpoena toll records for a Senate landline. And you don't have any additional information or recollections on that?
I really don't.
Okay. There was some litigation with AT&T over the subpoenas for the Senate lines. Do you have any recollection of that?
Was it litigation, or was I saw, or I was shown that there was a letter that from AT&T to Senator Grassley? I don't recall any litigation.
Okay, maybe litigation was with the wrong word, but AT&T, I guess, pushed back on the toll records subpoena, and according to them, after they pushed back and said they weren't comfortable producing the records, the special counsel's office stood down. Do you have any recollections from that?
I don't have any recollection of that.
Okay. And essentially AT&T represented, at least to Senator Grassley's office, that after they said no, we're not going to give you those records, your office didn't press the matter further. Which raises the question why. But the testimony is you don't have any recollection of that?
I don't have any recollection of it. I also don't know from the letter what the reason they gave for not giving it, but I don't have a memory of any of this.
Okay. To the extent members of Congress and senators are up in arms that this happened to them and they're seeking accountability, who should be held accountable for answering these questions?
Well, I think who should be accountable for this is Donald Trump. These records are people, in the case of the senators, Donald Trump directed his co-conspirators to call these people to further delay the proceedings. He chose to do that. If Donald Trump had chosen to call a number of Democratic senators, we would have got toll records for a number of Democratic senators. So responsibility for why these records, why we collected them, that lies with Donald Trump.
Well, I understand that's your perspective, but in terms of...
it's not...
There are calls from United States senators.
It's not just his perspective. This is ridiculous. Like, well, it's just your perspective, of course, that it's Trump's fault. It's like, no, he's the person that is being charged. He's the person that was committing crimes. That's why these records are being subpoenaed in the first place. If he didn't commit crimes and he didn't call people, imagine this. Imagine that someone some random Joe Schmo is involved in a crime, right? He commits a crime. And then after he commits a crime, he calls certain family members and kind of tells them about it or complains about it or whatever else, or gets aid from them. So then during discovery of the prosecutor's case, they go and subpoena not only the family members, but also maybe some other friends that this person had, because they think well, we don't know if they contacted their friends, because they definitely contacted these family members. And then you subpoena the family members, and then all of a sudden there's some moron that you have to go talk to in front of Congress that's oh, gee, why would you have subpoenaed the friends' phone lines? It's it's obvious. It is blatantly obvious why you would have subpoenaed those lines, because the person who you are convinced committed this crime called these people or told them about it, or maybe they were involved in it somehow. And it was such a vast conspiracy when you're talking about fake legislatures, as well as trying to get them to overturn votes in Georgia and Nevada and stuff like that. Governors and stuff were involved with this. These people could have been involved in it. That's why you would be contacting them. And it just, in subpoenaing those records, it seems like such a silly question, as if it's oh, this is some type of gotcha. It's this isn't even remotely close to a gotcha. This is embarrassing that you have to ask the question. I almost feel like this question is do y'all remember when that representative from Georgia years ago was saying that he was worried about the additional military personnel that we were stationing on Guam because he was afraid that the island of Guam might capsize from having the extra soldiers? I feel like this question, why would you have subpoenaed this stuff during an investigation of a crime of this magnitude? I feel like this question is as embarrassing as saying that Guam might capsize because of the number of troops on it. It feels like that bad of a question. But, that's the representatives that we have. That's the people that get elected in this country, apparently.
senators to impeach Judge Boasberg because he signed this NDO order. We've asked you questions, for a good bit now about whether your office should have taken additional steps. So it's either your office, the judge, the carrier. In your view, who needs to be held to account on these toll record subpoenas?
Well, I don't, certainly my office did everything consistent with the law and department regulations at the time. As I think we referenced earlier this morning, the department regulations on
Hank
this, since we
Johnson.
issued these
That's his
toll
name.
records, has changed. If I believe now, and I believe this is in 2024, if we were to
Yeah,
make an NDO
I
application
cringed
to a
so
judge,
bad
we would need to
watching that on
identify if they were
TV.
members of
I was
Congress.
like, oh my
And so
God, our
to the
entire
extent you think
country is
something needs to be changed,
embarrassed.
that change happened, but that was not required at the time that we issued these subpoenas.
Okay.
Sort of begs the point, though, doesn't it? What do you think? Sort of begs the point. Like, it makes the point, like maybe that should have been saying, it should have been burdened on the prosecution. I should have given that information to you. I think there's. Would you agree?
No, as I said earlier, I think we followed the regulations that they existed at the time. If the regulations that are now in effect were in effect then, we would have followed those regulations.
I just want to go back for a
offerings
second.
collective.
Who first contacted you about taking a position of special counsel?
Marshall Miller.
Same guy you reached out to early on.
Correct.
And said you'd be interested in the right position. So when did he?
Yeah, there it is. List down.
It was some point, I told you earlier, there was this initial conversation where I said,
Yeah.
right. Some point after that, he contacted me.
I think I've had
About,
enough of the
ultimately the position that I
axes.
ended up having.
Let's
Okay, I'm not trying to find when that was, because you called him when you
change
took the job
us
in December
out.
22,
How about some
which is
maces?
Before President Trump announces he's running for president, before you get appointed by the Attorney General, I want to know when you talked to Mr. Miller the second time, or the third time, or how many times did you talk to him?
Between the time that I originally reached out to Marshall Miller and the time that I was appointed as special counsel, I spoke to Marshall Miller several times.
Several times, okay. And then he's the one who first asked you, would you be interested in being special counsel, is that right?
I don't remember how he phrased it, but my recollection, to the extent I have one, is it was not phrased
Some
in terms
whoppers.
of being the special counsel. I think it was in terms of being involved in these events.
And again, when was that?
I
I'm
mean,
having trouble
you're not
recollecting. It
wrong,
definitely
but I think it
was
goes
after,
beyond just like a
he
failure
first reached
of
out to me.
teaching STEM. I think there's like
I
a
thought you called him-
concentrated
I'm sorry, you're right,
effort
you're right.
to like.
After I first reached out to him,
Okay.
we had multiple conversations between that.
Let's not forget there's like a concentrated effort in this country to essentially attack like intelligentsia, to basically be like, oh, the people that care about education, the people that care about things like math, logic, reason, those people are like, those must be like ivory tower elites out of touch with like the common man. Because if you think about it, the amount of times that conservatives appeal to things like common sense or appeal to intuition or appeal to truthiness. So like, oh, you just know it's true. If you bring up like the consensus of experts or the consensus of experts in any given field, like medicine, biology, etc., they're just going to deny that should hold any weight, that holds more weight than their like gut intuition, and that they should just be able to hand wave that with a, oh, but I can just look at, any given state of affairs and come to correct conclusions about it because of truthiness.
then, and when I was
In summer 22, when he takes a position as number 3 guy in Justice Department, between November 18, 2022, when you get named, you get multiple discussions, multiple conversations.
Yes, I just also to be clear, not all the conversations were about this position.
Not saying word, just multiple conversations. Did he ask you to, did he talk about special counsel position, the one you took, prior to the Attorney General asking you to take the job? I thought you said yes to that earlier.
Yeah, what I'm trying to remember is my recollection, and it is a little vague, is that the idea that working on these cases would be in the format of being a special counsel. My recollection, that it's imperfect, is that was very shortly
Okay, so
before
what
I
did
was
he say? Did
appointed.
he talk about Arctic Frost? Did he talk about plasma death? Did he talk about these investigations, the Florida case, DC case? What did he talk about?
I don't recall him ever talking about Arctic frost or plasma. I don't remember.
Those are some names. Did he talk about the 2 cases?
Yes, at some point it was not clear to me whether when he first, my recollection again, and it's not perfect, is it wasn't clear to me if it would be working on one case or the other or both. I'm not clear of how that first came up.
Okay. And these conversations were before President Trump announced that he was running for president?
Yes.
Okay. And were they before the midterm elections in 22?
When were the midterm elections?
November. First Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
I think I spoke to him both before then and after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would
And then,
include how to
how did it
research
go down at the end?
things,
Did you
but
tell
like
Mr. Miller,
that's
you know
more
what?
going to be like
President Trump announced
logic.
they maybe consider how did it go? Just tell Mr. Miller, I'd be interested if
well, I
that's
guess
the
research
official
is
special counsel.
definitely
How did it go
science too.
after President Trump announces?
It's
How
like
that conversation-
inductive methods.
My
certainly.
recollection of this is that I was asked if I would accept the position if it were offered to me, and that was before President Trump announced his candidacy.
When you were sworn in as special counsel when you were in Amsterdam, is that correct?
Yes.
Who swore you in?
I don't recall.
And was it over Zoom?
We've almost been
Or
going
was
for
some
3
president,
hours.
Mr. Cooney and Bratton and several folks came to visit you in Amsterdam, is that right?
Not in Amsterdam. I was in The Hague.
And like I think I'm just going to have to divide this up because this is just so much to listen to and go through all at once. The other thing is, I think what I might do next time is like mix in other content with it. So like maybe I'll do like a little bit of Jack Smith stuff, then like other videos that I want to listen to or talk about. And as more people like join the Discord, especially if they want to like come up here and debate anything or argue anything with me, like right now there's just not really opposition or anything like that. But I'm sure eventually some people are going to want to like dispute some of this stuff, which is one of the reasons why it is important to know like the sorts of things that Jack Smith has said, like in the evidences that he's able to produce. But I don't know. It's a lot to try to get through like 8 hours of a video. So I'm probably going to divide it up. And this is kind of like a good test stream to return back to. And like I said, I'm going to try to start doing streams like daily, I think. They're not going to be as early as this stream was. I'm probably going to do like probably more of like a 7 p.m. until the a.m. Maybe on like at least during the weekdays. The weekends, I'm going to be spending time like with my partners and probably like playing tabletop games and that sort of stuff. But at least the weekdays, I'm going to try to start streaming a lot more regularly instead of only posting a video like once a week. I'll still probably do videos if I just want to like isolate one thing, or I'll clip stuff out of streams if it's like specific subjects that we're talking about. And I'll probably post it that way. But either way, I don't want to spend like literally all night just talking about like Jack Smith. So I might be done with Jack Smith for a little bit. And I'll get back to that next stream. What, lobbying? I mean, like, what about lobbying? Like, what should people be allowed to lobby? Like the pros and cons of it or something? I think lobbying is like absolute garbage. I'm going to add some music back to the game. Focus back on this for a little bit. Warrior is just a fun class. I do like the unga bunga aspect of it. Just beating things with giant maces or axes. And there's so much like lore to the history of the game that like unless you've played it for years, if you just started watching it, it would probably be like a confusing mess. And that's why I was like, I'm just gonna play it as like I'm just gonna go beat up things. But when it gets to like midnight, I'll definitely do the storylines, or maybe I'll talk about it whenever we get to like when I go to Legion, for instance. I'll probably play like a few levels through Legion, and in Legion there's like definite storylines and stuff to pay attention to there, at least something consistent for at least a little bit. Oh yeah, it is a lot of fun, Morgan. You know what I realized, because I was changing classes so much, and like part of that might just be like a system issue, but I think that I realized that I think I like classes that you just hit buttons and get direct damage. Because I was like flipping through like my druid and my rogue, like cat druid at least. And then I was looking at a video on like Boomkin, and like as soon as it was like, oh, you gotta start like applying your dots and stuff again, or like on a rogue, like you need the dots. I was just like, I don't know, I started thinking about how frustrating it is to try and like tab through enemies and like spread dots and all that sort of thing. And like how much better it feels just to push a button and like the damage is done. Like you just, you know, you really like whack them just hitting a button. Like you don't need a bunch of buffs and stuff. Like you just beat the crap out of them with like your combo. I don't know, there's just something about it. And I started thinking about the classes that I really like to main, you know? Like, whenever I played Paladin. Paladin is like a direct damage dealing class. Like, there's not a bunch of dots and stuff that you spread around. When I liked Windwalker Monk, you just push your buttons and the monk, you know, beats up and does damage. Enhancement Shaman, you know, while there was like some buffs to it, it was more of like when the button glows, hit it, otherwise do the other rotation. I'm really looking forward to Shaman again. I just wanted an Orc warrior for Midnight. I already had I have a Blood Elf and a, or no, I have a Tauren, like among others. But I think I've had like a realization about like the things that we like as a group. And it really is the direct damage stuff. It's also I like Mage because you cast your spells and like the Mage's spells would just hit so hard. There wasn't like a bunch of dots and other crap that you had to build up and wait like 30 seconds before your character really ramps up. You just like immediately do the damage. Which, to be fair, I guess you could get that with Rogue too. You know, if you just built combo points quickly. Like, you don't have to play a build that focuses solely on like dots. Oh yeah, we're glad to be back as well. Unfortunately, I can't stay up too late right now. I'm still working a 9 to 5 right now, and that's going to require me to get up earlier in the mornings. But I want to be done with that within the next like couple of weeks. So I was starting to try and get streaming again, get stuff set up, because like I said earlier, this year I'm going to like really put effort into this channel. I don't want to, it's just been like, for a very long time, it's just something I kind of did as a hobby on the side. And I want to go ahead and actually, like, put real effort into it. So we'll see what happens with it. Oh yeah, and all the times I was talking about were, like, Central Time, earlier. Let's see, what am I missing? Missing that one. Oh, an improved whirlwind. There we go. Unlocks the rest of the tree. Yeah, it'll be good to speak with you soon, Kyle, as well. But I mean, like, we almost got level 50 tonight. Maybe I'll go a little bit longer. Maybe I'll do one more dungeon and just try and hit 50. Like, why not? And just end the evening on, like, getting level 50. And I'll just keep picking it up, like, next time. Aim for the, like, 50 to 60 route. That being said, I do want to like try and do stuff in Discord as well, so that people can join the Discord, and I can pull them into the room and just talk with y'all. Whether it's like you want to just talk about the same thing that we're doing, or whether you actually want to like debate us or like argue a subject, because I do enjoy debating. I think that would be pretty fun. Especially because this game, for me, I can, like, play it with my eyes closed at this point.
I've repaired several ley lines, and our friend here helped repair a major one. Has the Oathstone been repowered?
Vakthros is connected to the
I also do a lot of writing in my spare time, too. Like, That's kind of what we do. So, riding sprints is something else that that I'm pretty sure I want to do as well. So if you're a writer and you ever want to like just hang out and write together, something else that I'll probably set up as well. I mean, I got halfway to level 50 now, so we're making it. Glide, horsey, glide. Yeah, halfway there. The link is to a Discord that I made live earlier today. That is my other Discord server, Damn Awesome Media, which is going to be the server that I primarily do my debates and stuff through. Like, I literally added the link and stuff for it, like, shortly before I started the stream. Just finished it. So much fun. All the flashy buttons. I love it. Oh look, I did get it. Level 50. Hey, I got Orc Heritage Armor quest. I forgot about that. That's something else that we can go and unlock. But that'll have to wait till tomorrow. At least we got the level. Oh, I know, I love those crits. The only downside to Warrior, but that's why I'm gonna have like, you know, DK and what? Demon Hunter as well. Like, I just and Paladin. And maybe Druid. I'm gonna do a bunch of classes. I just don't like that I can't remove diseases, poisons, nothing. I can't cleanse myself at all. I'm just a dirty girl. If they put something on me, I'm just stuck with it. Yeah, I can't. Well, that's true. I mean, I can't do it all, but I don't need to do it all. I just need to beat the crap out of them. Zug zug. That's why I'm here. Oh, so much fun. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole. It's like, heal this. Hey, I can just about do it all on my paladin, though. I don't like the light aspects of playing paladin. Like, it's just cringe. Oh, you're all, you know, you're all a servant of the light or whatever. It's like, get that holy nonsense away from me. Oh, whoops. Ugh. I should have been paying attention. Oh well. We're back at it. I'm looking at other stuff. Right. I was thinking about paladins in the light, and I was like, oh my god, it's so cringe. And I was like, oh yeah, I can charge back again. Oh yeah, I never put a title on this character. Let's go with the unrelenting. Why not? How is horrified? Why does horrified not count as a fear? That's weird. Because I've got an immunity to fear that I can use, but it's like, oh no, you can't immune this fear. Fine, I'll just stun them all. There we go. Goodbye, bear. You never know how they did what? Oh, are you talking about the mobs that did the little psychic scream thing? It's just the ones in this dungeon specifically. None of the other, like, versions of those creatures typically do that. Right, it's like I cast Super Fear. There we go. Hey, I got an eyeball for a ring. Nice. So that's like level 51 at least. Let's see. All right.
Wild creatures
talents?
stalk this land. Come, join the hunt. Prove your skill.
Next talent, I'll get Blade Storm. Blade Storm. That's pretty fun. You like spin around like a little blender for a little while. But that is going to be it for me tonight. It is getting late, and I do have work in the morning. But after I get done with that, within the next, like, I would say, like, what, 10 days or so, I'll be able to stream, like, pretty late into the night. And not only, you know, hopefully entertain y'all for a little while, but actually able to, like, talk with people, hang out, play games and stuff. Yeah. And I'll also have, like, plenty of guests on to talk with and kind of, like, pick their brain on some of these thoughts as well. At least we got through a lot of Comey's deposition, almost half of it. And figure we'll do some more of that tomorrow, but also I'll find some other videos to also cover because there's so much crap going on. Like, it's like their flood the field strategy or whatever the hell it is, like to keep it so overwhelming, to keep you like off kilter, so it's hard to even like keep up with everything that's going on because there's just such a ridiculous amount of garbage that they're doing every single day. And I remember during the last election cycle just how like toxic like WoW had gotten for a little while because of all the people spreading like Trump's propaganda. But that'll be like, I'll talk about that again later because I can feel like that's probably going to be like an absolute like long rant just because of like, you know, people are complaining about the TOS and all that sort of thing. And I was just like, I feel like people that complain about that don't remember like how toxic the game was during that time with like Steve Bannon and his little like lackeys running around and spamming trade chat endlessly with like pro-Trump garbage. But we'll discuss that during another stream. I'm going to grab these gauntlets. There we go. Then head back to the capital city out here. Oh, was that not the gauntlets? Oh no, the gauntlets are the climbing hut. Damn. Let's climb some rocks. Got it.
We'll see if we can put those materials to good use.
Just parachuting. Oh look, I fell so many yards without splatting. It's like, good job, me. Haste by 1 auto attacks 10%. For 10. No, let's do that one. Just to start it off. Alright, let's get out of here. But it was fun. Thank y'all for coming in and watching and hanging out for a little while. I think it was a good time. But I need sleep and I need food. There we go. Let's go back to town.
The mountains are mighty here. Plant our banners to mark what the Dragon Scale expedition has discovered.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Hopefully it entertained you for a little while. But we will do it tomorrow, and I'll talk to y'all later.